Chapter 2297. This Chaos faction was not very big and only had 30 million or so people, but it was not simple at all. This was because this faction seemed to be able to communicate with other factions, which meant that this faction was connected to other Chaos factions. They interacted, traded, and did other things. Zhao Fu felt quite surprised. He had never heard of such a thing before. Now that Zhao Fu had brought his army here, he used a spatial sealing magic formation to lock down the space, preventing this faction from using teleportation channels and from sending information out. The Chaos faction's people were all on the city walls, and seeing the flood of Qin soldiers, they became incredibly terrified. If there were so many Qin soldiers, they would not be able to defend at all. Also, why had so many Heaven Awakened World people suddenly appeared? Zhao Fu was incredibly confident because Zhao Fu had brought 500 million Qin soldiers, which was 10 times more than the Chaos faction soldiers. What else do you need me to say? Are you willing to submit to me? A chubby middle-aged man stood on the city walls. He wore a long robe and gave off a powerful aura. Hearing Zhao Fu's words, the middle-aged man started to hesitate. He knew that if they fought, they would definitely lose. After all, how could they defend against 500 million soldiers with only 30 million soldiers? They were not mindless insects and did not fear death at all. Whenever they saw Heaven Awakened World people, they would rush over. Boom! A massive Emperor's aura exploded out, spreading out like a flood and covering the surrounding 100,000 meters. The air instantly froze. Countless Chaos people felt as if they had fallen into icy water, and their bodies continuously trembled. They felt extreme terror. Who was this person? How could he have such immense power? Zhao Fu looked at the middle-aged man and said in a dignified voice, "I'll say it again. Are you willing to submit to me? My patience is limited. If you don't submit, I'll attack." The middle-aged man's face became pale as he said, "Wait, don't attack. We're willing to submit." Zhao Fu gave a trace of a smile and had them put down their weapons and open the city gates. The middle-aged man didn't dare to refuse and obediently followed the orders. He put down the countless weapons and even opened the city gates. The fat middle-aged man even took the lead and knelt in front. Zhao Fu led the army to the front of the city and stretched out a hand. A wave of energy flowed out from his hand and entered the middle-aged man's body, turning into a restriction. Then, Zhao Fu led the army into the city and took over the city. Sitting on a chair in the hall, Zhao Fu asked, "What's your name?" The middle-aged fat man answered nervously, "Qinghai." Zhao Fu smiled and asked what he was most concerned about. "How can you communicate with other people?" "We've joined the Northern Wilderness Alliance, so we can communicate with each other through the Alliance's portal." Northern Wilderness Alliance? Zhao Fu felt quite confused and did not know much about this. He was quite curious about what sort of faction this was and felt that it was not simple at all. So he asked, "Tell me everything you know." Qinghai began to explain. It turned out that the outer world was different from what Zhao Fu had thought. If the alchemy world was a world of clans, then the outer world was a world of alliances. Qin was in the outer regions of the outer world, and the outer regions of the outer world could be divided into 4 alliances. The first was the East Mountain Alliance, the second was the West Ground Alliance, the third was the South Forest Alliance, and the fourth was the Northern Wilderness Alliance. The 4 alliances were spread out in 4 directions, and almost all of the Chaos race would join them. As such, they could only communicate with each other. This type of alliance had been born a long time ago, and its history could be traced back to the creation era. Within the primal Chaos world, the most numerous creatures were insects, followed by aquatic creatures, which could be called water beasts. The third type were wild beasts, which could be called wild beasts. The Chaos race was the rarest, so they were at a great disadvantage. The places they lived were separated by groups of insects and beasts, and if something happened, they would be easily destroyed. In order to solve this problem, people formed alliances to help and support each other, which was why the alliances had continued. It was actually quite easy to join an alliance. One could find a faction that wanted to join the alliance. One could use their teleportation channels to go to the Alliance Center and find an administrator to register the faction's information before bringing the administrator to the faction to build an Alliance teleportation channel. If one could not find a faction that wanted to join the Alliance, one could only find the Alliance Center. There was more than one Alliance Center. Every region had a Level 1 Alliance Center, 10 regions had a Level 2 Alliance Center, and 100 regions had a Level 3 Alliance Center. This region was the same as the Heaven Awakened Worlds regions. The Outer Worlds regions were many times larger than the Heaven Awakened Worlds regions. Apart from connecting various factions and allowing them to communicate and help each other, the Alliance Center itself was a very powerful faction, and no faction dared to offend it. It had the power to kick you out of the Alliance, and once you were kicked out, you would not even be able to enter the Alliance Center, let alone communicate with other factions. Apart from this, the Alliance could also gather other factions to attack your faction. Most of the time, the other factions would give you face and send soldiers to attack you. With this ability, almost no one dared to offend the Alliance. Finally, the factions that joined the Alliance had to hand over a certain amount of resources at regular intervals, and if they did not hand over for a long time, they would be kicked out of the Alliance. Most of the time, the factions in the Alliance did not dare to offend other factions, and their relationships were quite good. Regions were different from region to region, and they all managed their own regions. However, when necessary, they would listen to the higher-level Alliance's orders. This was the situation in the outer regions of the outer world. The inner regions had their own alliances, and the middle regions also had their own alliances. After hearing about this, Zhao Fu felt quite interested in the Alliance Center. Moreover, Zhao Fu did not know what a true outer world faction was like, and he had only seen a few cities. After thinking about it, Zhao Fu decided to make some preparations and head to the Alliance Center to have a better understanding of the outer world. As for the factions in this region, Zhao Fu planned to relocate them all. After all, this place was quite big and could hold so many people. Moreover, this place was quite far away from Qin, and if something happened, it was possible that Qin would not be able to make it in time. After Qin Hai came to Qin and found out about Qin's true strength, he felt quite afraid. Luckily, he had chosen to surrender, or else he would not even know how he had died facing such a powerful faction. Chapter 2298. Zhao Fu made some simple preparations before bringing Qin Hai to the Alliance Central. The reason he brought Qin Hai was because he was quite familiar with the Alliance's matters, and if they had any questions, they could directly ask him, saving them a lot of trouble. As for this place, Zhao Fu had sent soldiers to protect it and forbade others from teleporting over. They were all enemies. This teleportation channel was a special teleportation channel, and only people from the Alliance could construct it. Other teleportation channels could not be used together with the Alliance teleportation channel. Moreover, this teleportation channel was a super long-distance teleportation channel. Because there were very few people from the Chaos race, and they were separated by groups of other creatures, they could only communicate with each other through super long-distance teleportation channels. After arriving at the Alliance Center, Zhao Fu looked at the tall buildings and the bustling scene of people walking to and fro. He felt quite shocked. This place was even bigger and more bustling than he had expected. Qin Hai anxiously said, "Your Majesty, you need to be careful and hide your aura. You need to be careful and hide your aura. Otherwise, if someone from the Heaven Awakened world appears at the center of the Alliance, they will immediately be hunted down by the entire Alliance." Even though Qin Hai felt that Zhao Fu was quite powerful, Zhao Fu was facing the entire Alliance Center and definitely would not be a match for him. So he cautioned him. He somewhat admired Zhao Fu for coming to the Alliance Center by himself. This was like a sheep entering a wolf's den. Zhao Fu nodded. In actuality, he did not need to hide it. Zhao Fu could give off the Chaos World's aura. After all, Zhao Fu had obtained the heaven-defying 8 forbidden blood art in the Chaos World, as well as the Blood Celestial's bloodline. At that time, Zhao Fu could give off the pure Chaos race aura. Following this, Zhao Fu and Qin Hai started to stroll around the Alliance Center. Their goal this time was to properly understand the Chaos race. Even though there were many insects, water beasts, and wild beasts, there was not much to understand. The most important creatures in the chaos world were most likely the chaos race. From the information he had obtained before, the chaos race was split into 8 races, unlike the heaven-awakened world's 8 great clans, which were split into countless races of various sizes. Zhao Fu looked at the various members of the chaotic race on the street. They all looked the same. One could even say that they were of the same race. It was just that some of them had different auras. This was different to the heaven-awakened world, where there were all sorts of races. It was impossible to remember how many races there were, and it was as if there were tens of thousands of races. Zhao Fu felt quite curious. The outer world and alchemy world should have devoured some smaller worlds and fused with them. So why was there only one race, unlike the heaven-awakened world, which had countless races? After asking Qing Hai, he understood the reason. The outer world devoured worlds differently from the heaven-awakened world. After devouring a world, the outer world would use primal chaos power to corrode the entire world. This method was relatively crude, simple, and cruel. The creatures that originally lived in that world would become primal chaos if they could withstand the corrosion of the primal chaos power. If they couldn't, they would die immediately. As such, every time they annexed a world, countless creatures would die. Only a small number of creatures would survive and become creatures of the primal chaos world. The reason why the outer world did this was for the pureness of the world's source energy and the purity of its fate. There were many benefits, and the world itself would become more powerful. The alchemy world was like this, so only the alchemy race lived there. There were no other races. Now, Zhao Fu felt quite fortunate that it had been the heaven-awakened world that had devoured the human world. If it had been the outer world or the alchemy world, who knew how many people would have died? The outer world devoured worlds differently from the heaven-awakened world. It chose to devour a world and then use its power to corrode it. There would also be a new world's protective barrier. Because of the corroding power, the creatures living in that world would become stronger, and they would have to go through bloody battles before they could truly fuse into the outer world. There might be battles between humans and beasts, or it might be between humans and insects, or it might be between insects and beasts. This method was quite similar to the apocalypse, where spirit energy would corrode the world, causing the world to become different. In order to survive, people would fight. Moreover, there might not be a Qin empire. The outer world was filled with chaos and killing, so the original world's legacies were not very useful. Creating new legacies would be of great use, such as individual legacies, family legacies, or nation legacies. This was quite good for ordinary people without any legacies, as everyone would be on equal footing. No matter what family or nation one was from, the starting point would be the same. However, as a nation legacy, if the Qin world was devoured by the outer world, it would not have any advantages, so it would be difficult for it to establish an empire. The alchemy world was dominated by families, and if it was devoured by the outer world, the nation legacies would be destroyed and would not be of any use. However, the family legacies would be greatly improved, and that would be the world of families. This would essentially destroy the Qin legacies, and Zhao Fu would not be able to establish a Qin empire in the alchemy world. Comparatively speaking, Zhao Fu felt that the heaven-awakened world was already treating the new world quite well. Zhao Fu continued to stroll around on the streets. There were some hawkers on the streets selling all sorts of fruits and vegetables. Most of them were materials from insects and beasts, as well as some strange items. For example, there was a type of concealing insect powder that could make insects unable to see you if you sprinkled it on your body. There was also insect aversion to water, which could make insects unwilling to get close to you if you sprinkled it on your body. There was also an insect blood gourd, which could make you drink a gourd of clear water after a while. These items had all sorts of uses, such as dealing with insects, water beasts, and wild beasts. It seemed that after living with those creatures for so long, the Chaos race had a great understanding of them and had created all sorts of items to deal with them. Not only that, but they also had various uses for the materials from those creatures and created many things. They were much better than Qin in this aspect, and Qin was still in the midst of researching them. Zhao Fu gave a trace of smile and started to collect information on how to create these items, as well as information on the creatures. This way, Qin would not have to spend time, effort, and resources on researching them. The outer world did not have its own currency, but the Alliance had created Alliance currency. The various factions used Alliance currency, and they could only use items to trade. Zhao Fu did not have Alliance currency, but Qinghai had a large amount of Alliance currency. He had been the leader of a faction, so he definitely had a lot of Alliance currency. Chapter 2299. After collecting these items, Zhao Fu smiled as he continued to stroll on the streets. He found many other places that sold insects. The bug beasts sold in these places were all young bug beasts, and they were not ordinary bug beasts. Instead, they were bug beasts with purer bloodlines and stronger powers. They were mainly used as pets, but they could also be cultivated with different abilities. For example, there was a type of dog insect that had a very strong sense of smell. It could be cultivated into a kind of insect beast that had the ability to track and search. It was a type of perceptive worm that could sense danger around it. Once there was danger, it would send out a warning so that the owner could prepare in advance. With this kind of pet, the owner's safety would be greatly improved. It was a type of flying-type insect beast that could also be cultivated into a mount. With its ability to fly, it could fly into the sky and play in the sky. It could also sit on it and travel. Zhao Fu was very interested in these various insect beasts, but Zhao Fu did not plan to buy or study them. Because the insects had low intelligence and were affected by the outer world's will, they would madly rush up and attack people from the heaven-awakened world. As such, even though the insects had all sorts of abilities, they were useless against Qin. Originally, Zhao Fu's impression of the Chaos race was that they were barbaric. But now his impression of them had changed. They had a complete hierarchy, used all kinds of things, and created all kinds of things. In this aspect, they were no different from other worlds. Zhao Fu and Qinghai continued to stroll on the street, looking at all kinds of things curiously. Fatty Hai, you still have the guts to come to the Alliance Center? Was the last lesson not enough? A sarcastic voice sounded behind Zhao Fu and Qinghai. Hearing this voice, Qinghai's face became somewhat pale, and he said to Zhao Fu in a small voice, "Your Majesty, I'm afraid that the great Qin Empire has been destroyed. Let's go back first. He's the young master of Bone Cliff City. Bone Cliff City is one of the strongest powers in this area. They also have people in the Alliance." Zhao Fu turned his head to look behind him and saw a handsome young man looking at him with a sneer. He was accompanied by a few guards who exuded powerful auras. "Do you have any problems with it?" Zhao Fu asked Qinghai, who was next to him. Qinghai replied, "In the past, I brought some precious items to the Alliance to sell. He liked my items and wanted to buy them with very little money. Naturally, I didn't agree and told him to buy them with enough money. I even gave him a discount. But he didn't agree and wanted to buy my precious things with that bit of money. I didn't agree and he wanted to snatch it. Luckily, I called people from the Alliance and he stopped. After that, he found trouble with me. Last time, I was beaten up by him. I wanted the Alliance to do justice, but now there are people in the Alliance who don't care about this matter. This is why I won't come to the Alliance Center. I will leave everything to them to avoid trouble." Zhao Fu continued to ask, "How strong is the Bone Cliff City?" Qinghai replied, "They have around 500 million people, but control 3 billion bugs. More importantly, his uncle is a high-ranking officer in the Alliance and might even gather the Alliance's power." A smile of disdain appeared on Zhao Fu's face. He felt that Bone Cliff City was just SOSO, and there was nothing scary about it. With Qin's strength, he could deal with them easily. Seeing that the two of them didn't reply to him, rage appeared on the handsome young man's face. He said, "Break their legs and let them remember this." A few guards obeyed and walked towards the two of them. This was especially so for a skinny elder who gave off an aura that was even more powerful than Qinghai's. The handsome young man had most likely relied on this skinny elder to teach Qinghai a lesson, as Qinghai himself was not weak. Zhao Fu laughed, "Don't ask to die. Kneel in front of me and admit your wrongs. Then I will let you live." The handsome young man roared furiously. "Kill him." The guards gave off powerful auras and rushed at Zhao Fu. The thin old man also roared. "How dare you speak to the young master like that? You deserve to die." The old man gave off a powerful aura and quickly rushed in front of Zhao Fu. His thin hand grabbed towards Zhao Fu's throat like a sharp claw, bringing with it an intense wind that could cause one's hairs to stand on end. Qinghai could not help but feel afraid. Back then, he had been defeated by this old man and had broken quite a few of his bones. Zhao Fu looked at the incoming old man in disdain and stood there without moving. Just as the old man was about to grab Zhao Fu stretched out a hand and easily grabbed the old man's wrist before forcefully breaking it. Arg! A mournful cry sounded out as the old man's arm was broken by Zhao Fu like a tree branch. The intense pain caused the old man to howl in pain. The handsome young man looked at the scene in front of him in shock. He had never thought that his strongest guard would be defeated so easily like a chicken without any attack power. The people who had gathered to watch the show were all shocked. They could sense that the skinny old man was very powerful, but they had never thought that this person would be more than 10 times stronger than the skinny old man. The old man was not a match for him at all. Qinghai was also quite shocked. He knew that Zhao Fu was very powerful and could defeat the old man, but he had never thought that it would be so simple. Zhao Fu coldly laughed as he looked at the screaming old man. His broken arm was still in Zhao Fu's hand. Bang! Zhao Fu vigorously kicked the skinny old man's abdomen. A muffled sound rang out as the skinny old man was sent flying and crashed to the ground. He coughed up a large mouthful of blood and did not even have the strength to crawl back up. The guards who had rushed over were so frightened that they immediately retreated, not daring to attack Zhao Fu. The handsome young man's face was pale as he said, "Let's go." Now, he understood that Zhao Fu was not to be trifled with, and if he did not leave, his life would be in danger. Zhao Fu looked at the young man condescendingly. "Did I say you could leave?" The handsome young man said furiously, "You've already beaten up my people. What more do you want?" Zhao Fu said domineeringly, "Kneel in front of me and admit your wrongs, and I'll let you off." The handsome young man said furiously, "Keep dreaming. Also, you should know who I am and still dare to treat me like this. Aren't you afraid of offending Bone Cliff City?" Zhao Fu said disdainfully, "Do you think I'll be afraid?" At that moment, a pair of well-equipped guards came over. The handsome young man looked delighted as he said, "This person injured my people and broke the Alliance's rules. Hurry and capture him." The guard captain naturally recognized the handsome young man. Hearing his words, he turned to look at Zhao Fu and said in a dignified voice, "You actually dared to make a move in the Alliance. You don't place the Alliance in your eyes at all. Come with us." Chapter 2300. Zhao Fu burst out laughing. "What if I say no?" The captain of the guards said coldly, "You should know what the consequences are. I don't think there's a need for you to offend the Alliance for this. Moreover, if you dare to go against the Alliance, aren't you afraid of being removed from the Alliance?" Qinghai reminded him softly, "Your Majesty, let's go. Don't offend the Alliance for this. It's too strong. If you offend this Alliance, you might offend the other alliances, which will be bad for you." Hearing Qinghai's words, the handsome young man felt more confident and was no longer afraid. "I'll give you a chance. Kneel in front of me and admit your wrongs, and I'll let you off this time." Zhao Fu coldly laughed as he looked at the handsome young man. In the next second, he disappeared and appeared in front of the young man. He stretched out a hand, grabbed the young man's throat, and lifted him up. The handsome young man's face was filled with terror, and he felt like he was suffocating. He tried to pry open Zhao Fu's palm, but Zhao Fu's palm seemed to be made of iron, and he was unable to pry it open at all. The captain of the guards was startled. He had never thought that Zhao Fu would dare to kill someone in front of him. He hurriedly said, "Hurry and stop him. Also, inform the higher-ups. This person actually dared to attack, so he might have some strength." The handsome young man felt as if he was going to die and said in terror, "Don't kill me. I'm willing to kneel and admit my wrongs." Zhao Fu looked at the handsome young man, and a massive wave of demonic energy flowed out and entered the handsome young man's body. Zhao Fu then let go of the handsome young man's hand, and he collapsed to the ground, breathing heavily in the fresh air. The guards who had been charging at Zhao Fu were stunned. They had never thought that Zhao Fu would suddenly let go. This time, Zhao Fu let go of the handsome young man because he felt that the handsome young man was of some use. He had even injected demonic energy into the handsome young man's body, which might be useful in the future. What did you say you were going to do? Zhao Fu looked at the handsome young man on the ground as he said in a mocking tone. The handsome young man's expression was quite unsightly. He did not know what kind of power Zhao Fu had injected into his body. He wanted to get rid of this power, but he was unable to. He was simply too weak. Hearing Zhao Fu's words, the handsome young man thought about it and suppressed his anger. He knelt on the ground and said, "I was wrong. Please let me off this time." When the people in the surroundings saw the handsome young man kneel down and admit his mistake, they all revealed looks of disdain and mockery. This young man had brought great humiliation to Bone Cliff City's reputation. Facing these gazes, the handsome young man felt quite humiliated and thought about how he would take revenge on Zhao Fu after returning to his faction. He would definitely make Zhao Fu suffer the same humiliation. No, make Zhao Fu suffer 100 times more humiliation. Qinghai was also a little surprised. He never thought that the usually unbridled and lawless person would have such a day. He also got rid of the resentment in his heart. Zhao Fu was quite powerful. He was not afraid of the Alliance and Bone Cliff City, and Qin was far more powerful than he had expected. After all, they were from the Heaven Awakened world, but they had 2 billion soldiers in the outer world. He did not think that Zhao Fu was an idiot. Since Zhao Fu dared to do this, he had the strength to stop the Alliance and Bone Cliff City. As such, Zhao Fu became more confident and straightened his back. He was no longer as afraid as before. Zhao Fu looked at the handsome young man, kneeling in front of him in satisfaction, and gave a trace of smile as he asked, "What's your name?" The handsome young man suppressed his anger and said, "Gulang." Zhao Fu smiled as he said, "Get up then. I'm going to take a walk around here. Lead the way." Gulang felt like he was going to die from anger. Zhao Fu had made him suffer such humiliation and wanted him to lead the way. What kind of person did he think he was? "Don't go too far," Gulang said furiously. Zhao Fu said disdainfully, "So what if I go too far? Do you want to die? If you do, I can help you." When Gulang heard this, he could only suppress his anger. He hated Zhao Fu to death and wanted to cut Zhao Fu into 1,000 pieces. Following this, Gulang led the way while Zhao Fu and Qinghai walked behind him. They continued to stroll around and look at all sorts of special things. Not long later, a massive explosion sounded out as a bearded middle-aged man appeared in the sky. He gave off a massive aura that caused countless people to feel terror. Only someone from the Alliance would dare to appear in the sky so openly and give off such a powerful aura. This bearded middle-aged man was naturally Gulang's uncle, Gu Qinya. His strength was extremely terrifying and surpassed world realm experts. He was one of the strongest people in the Alliance and was quite famous. It was because of this that the Alliance was worried about Gu Qinya's strength, which was why they closed one eye to Gulang. Gu Qinya stood in the air with a furious look on his face. He had heard that Gulang had knelt in front of someone and admitted his wrongs, and this had infuriated him to death. It was simply too shameful, so he had come to find Zhao Fu. Gulang looked at Gu Qinya, who had appeared in the sky, and cried out in surprise, "Uncle, you must help me vent my anger and properly teach this arrogant guy a lesson. I want him to suffer 10 times the humiliation." Gu Qinya said coldly to Gulang, "I'll deal with you later." He then looked at Zhao Fu, "Since you dare to treat my Gu family's people like this, receive my punishment." After speaking, Gu Qinya gave off a massive aura as he descended from the sky like a meteor. He was incredibly terrifying and caused people to feel fear. The people in the surroundings hurriedly retreated, creating a large, empty space. Zhao Fu, who was at the center, did not look afraid at all. Gu Qinya rushed down and arrived in front of Zhao Fu. His palm brought with it terrifying power as it slammed towards Zhao Fu, seeming to be able to split open the ground. At that crucial moment, Zhao Fu gripped his fist and gathered a wave of power in his fist, causing it to give off an intense black light. He vigorously punched out, and a terrifying fist energy shot out. Bang! Gu Qinya was hit in the chest, and his body flew back. He streaked across the air and crashed into a building. He coughed up a large mouthful of blood and looked like a pile of mud. Now, everything fell silent. This power was simply too terrifying. That was an expert who surpassed the world realm and was incredibly powerful in the outer domains. He was one of the most powerful people, and yet he had been beaten half to death by a single punch. Hai Qing looked incredibly shocked. He had once again underestimated Zhao Fu's efforts. Zhao Fu had so easily defeated an expert who surpassed the world realm with a single punch. Gulang's face was also pale. Just who did he offend? The uncle that he was so proud of could not even block a single punch from him. This time, he had really caused a huge disaster. Also, why did he have such a cheap mouth just now? He was going to be in trouble now. Chapter 23:01. Now that they had beaten up the Alliance's higher-ups, Zhao Fu understood that this was not a good place to stay. There would most likely be countless Alliance people charging over, so he said, "Let's go back for now." Hai Qing smiled and nodded. Now that he was by such an expert's side, he felt much more confident. Following this, Zhao Fu and Hai Qing left. Gu Lang, who had been worried the entire time, let out a sigh of relief. He felt as if he was going to collapse. He had thought that he was going to be killed by Zhao Fu. The people in the surroundings started to discuss. Who is that person? He's so strong. Gu Qinya is a famous expert in the Alliance, and yet he was insta-killed. That person is definitely the most powerful person in this region. Even the Alliance's #1 expert would not have been able to defeat Gu Qinya so easily. Yet that person did it. He's definitely stronger than the Alliance's #1 expert. I don't think so. That person didn't even use his full strength just then. His strength is far more terrifying than we thought. Even the Alliance's #1 expert would be able to suppress him. Just who is that person? How could such a powerful person suddenly appear? Let alone our region. Even the nearby regions don't have such a terrifying person. Could it be someone from the Heaven Awakened world? Once the Heaven Awakened world's factions reach a certain level, they will enter our outer world to fight. That's why a powerful faction or person suddenly appeared. I don't think so. I sense that his aura was from our outer world. How could someone from the Heaven Awakened world have our aura? He's most likely from the central domain, and his identity is definitely quite terrifying. That's right. That's why he's not afraid of the Alliance's people. Even the Alliance doesn't dare to offend such a person. We need to be careful in the future and not offend such a major figure. By now, Gu Lang had come to his uncle's side. Seeing his uncle powerlessly lying on the ground, he worriedly took out medicinal pills to heal his injuries. After Gu Qinya recovered a trace of his strength, he looked at the worried Gu Lang and said, "At least you have some conscience." He then said seriously, "Boy, how did you offend such a terrifying person? If we don't handle this well, Bone Cliff City will suffer." Gu Lang's face was pale and understood that he had made a big mistake. He did not dare to hide anything and told Gu Lang what had happened. Bony Front Tooth let out a sigh of relief. Fortunately, there isn't a huge grudge between them. I'll leave this matter to you in the future. Try to please him and end this grudge. Don't cause any trouble for Bone Cliff City. Gu Lang's expression was quite unsightly as he said, "Got it." The situation had changed too quickly. Before, he had wanted Zhao Fu to repay him 100 times over for the humiliation he had suffered. But now, he had to endure the humiliation to curry favor with him. He had no choice but to do this. He understood that the other party was very terrifying, and he was also afraid of the other party's power. Under this fear, humiliation was nothing. After returning, Qin's place, Zhao Fu, Gu Zhao, and Gu Qin, Qin and Gu. Qin, Zhao Qin, Qin Gu, and Fu. Zhao Qin, Gu Chan, Fu, Qin, as Kama-chan Kama fu, this is Chin. Right now, they could only keep things the same in the primal chaos world and continue to exterminate the surrounding insects. As for the large empty area, they could only leave it there. This problem was almost unsolvable. The main reason was that the primal chaos world had too few people. If it was like the alchemy world, they could be wiped out and the population could be moved to their own place. That way, there would not be so much useless land. The matter of the alliance would be left there for now. They could send people to inquire about the various factions. In the future, they might be able to attack the alliance in this area. After dealing with this matter, Zhao Fu had just returned to Qin. A few days later, he received another piece of good news. The news came from the God Realm. Under the rapid expansion of the Pantheon Palace, they had subdued many factions and had finally gathered 3,000 statues, meeting the requirements for the Sealing Sky Forbidden Ground formation. Zhao Fu had been waiting for this for a long time. Now that they had gathered enough statues, Zhao Fu could not wait to go to the God Realm. The various materials for the Sealing Sky Forbidden Ground formation had long since been prepared, and they could now set it up. The Pantheon Palace's territory was the size of 2 worlds, which was a bit too big. There were not enough statues to set up such a large Sealing Sky Forbidden Ground formation, so Zhao Fu made the area smaller. Later on, more statues would be spread out. This time, the Sealing Sky Forbidden Ground formation was only the size of a world's formation. Pure white stone towers that were 100 meters tall had been constructed, and there were all sorts of magic formations and restrictions engraved on them. Because they had been constructed by the God World soldiers, the pure white stone platforms seemed quite holy and gave off powerful auras. There were also statues placed at the top of the stone towers. There were all sorts of statues, but they were only 2 meters tall. This wasn't the God Spirit's main body, but a few avatars. However, these avatars were also infused with the power of the main body and were even bound to the main body. They could give off the same power. Right now, the godly spirit's main body was within the Pantheon Palace, which was the core of the Sealing Sky Forbidden Ground formation. There were 3,000 statues in all directions, and there was a profound magic formation engraved below them. At the center of the magic formation was a platform, and at the center of the platform was the 10,000 God Spear. Before, Zhao Fu had said that he wanted to nurture the 10,000 God Spear into the Heaven Realm's world-suppressing weapon. So the Sealing Sky Forbidden Ground formation was centered around it. Zhao Fu stood at the front of the platform and felt quite nervous. Once he set up this magic formation, the Heaven, Earth, and Man World formation would be formed. When that time came, Zhao Fu did not know what would happen. The other godly spirits stood by the side and looked at Zhao Fu in anticipation. They understood that this matter was quite important and could cause massive changes to the Pantheon Palace. Zhao Fu deeply breathed in and calmed himself down. He walked to the platform and stretched out a hand, gripped the 10,000 God Spear, and sent a wave of power into it. The 10,000 God Spear gave off a massive wave of power that spread out like a wave of light. The magic formation under the statue was instantly activated, giving off intense light, and a massive wave of power spread out. Boom, boom, boom. Massive explosions sounded out throughout the entire world. The residents did not know what was going on, and they panicked as they listened to the massive explosions. The various runes on the god towers lit up, and the magic formations at the top were activated, giving off a massive wave of god power. The statue at the center of the magic formations seemed to come to life. The entire god towers gave off boundless light. Chapter 23:02. Massive golden beams of light, giving off powerful auras, shot into the sky, forming massive pillars of light. Massive auras flooded out, covering the entire world. Countless God World residents sensed this massive power, and even though they did not know what it was, there was a formless power that caused them to kneel on the ground devoutly. Massive figures appeared within the pillars of light, and they all looked different and gave off different divine powers. They were dozens of meters tall and gave off immense divine might, as if they ruled over everything. After the 3,000 or so divine statues gave off immense divine might, a massive golden magic formation appeared in the sky, covering an entire world. Standing on the stage, Zhao Fu held the 10,000 god spear in one hand and once again sent massive amounts of power into the spear. Boom! A shocking explosion sounded out as the heavens and earth dimmed and clouds swirled as the world's source energy madly flowed towards the magic formation in the sky. The sounds shook the surroundings, causing countless people to feel incredibly shocked. Even the godly spirit factions in the distance sensed this massive aura and looked in shock as they looked towards the Pantheon Palace. The massive magic formation in the sky started to spin, and all of the world's source energy was gathered together. Boom! A shocking explosion once again sounded out as an enormous golden beam of light containing immense power blasted down and landed on the Pantheon Palace. The ground violently trembled before cracking, and the entire Pantheon Palace gave off boundless light as if it was supported by a powerful wave of divine power. It slowly rose up from the ground. The Pantheon Palace's pillar of light landed on the 10,000 god spear, which quickly absorbed the massive amount of world source energy and once again started to go through changes. The Pantheon Palace rose into the sky and gave off boundless light that covered the surroundings. It gave off a massive aura, as if it really was a god palace of 10,000 gods, giving off a shocking aura. Within the Pantheon Palace, a wave of power pushed away Zhao Fu, who was holding the 10,000 god spear. Countless motes of golden light gathered and continuously changed in front of Zhao Fu, forming a large golden book. This book was about the same size as the Earth Book and the Human Book. It had a golden cover, and there were images of many godly spirits and divine beasts engraved on it. The words Heavenly Book were written at the center, and it gave off a faint golden light and a divine aura. The Heavenly Book automatically flipped open in front of Zhao Fu. It was densely packed with the names of countless people, and the names of a group of deities were listed at the top. The first was the Jade God, the second was the Iron God, the third was the Metal God, the fourth was the Silver God, the fifth was the Bronze God, the sixth was the Earth God, and the seventh was the River God. Zhao Fu only knew the names of these records. They were the names of the gods and people of Qin, but he didn't know what they were used for. However, Zhao Fu could vaguely sense that there was more to it than meets the eye. That was because this was something that had been formed by the sealing heaven-suppressing earth law by gathering the essence of countless worlds. There must be a reason why these names would appear. Otherwise, they would not have appeared. Boom! A massive explosion sounded out as a white book gave off boundless white light at the top of a 1,000-meter tall stone tower in the heaven-awakened world, and an immense power spread out. Boom! A massive explosion sounded out as a gray book gave off boundless gray light at the top of a tower in the underworld that gave off an eerie aura, and a massive, eerie aura spread out. Both explosions were very loud and resounded in all directions. Countless people did not understand what was going on. The Heavenly Book gave off boundless light in the godly world. The Human Book gave off boundless light in the heaven-awakened world, and the Earth Book gave off boundless light in the underworld. The three books started to resonate with each other. Boom! The heaven-awakened world's sealing heaven-forbidden land formation was activated, and a massive magic formation that covered 7 worlds appeared on the ground. The stone stages gave off powerful light, and the nation armaments at the top also gave off powerful power. Before, the Qin world's sealing heaven-suppressing earth formation covered 3 worlds, and after continuously developing, they had obtained more and more nation armaments. As such, the sealing heaven-suppressing earth formation had become much larger and could now cover 7 worlds. Zhao Fu felt an intense summoning. The heaven-awakened world's magic formation was calling out to him. Zhao Fu did not hesitate and quickly left the godly world, returning to the heaven-awakened world, and came before the Human Book. This was the sealing heaven-suppressing earth formation's main magic formation, and the godly world and underworld were branch magic formations. The main magic formation could control the branch magic formations, and if the main magic formation was damaged, the branch magic formations would be greatly affected. Boom! An explosion once again sounded out as the underworld's sealing heaven-suppressing earth formation was activated. A massive magic formation appeared on the ground, and the stone stages gave off terrifying and eerie auras. Now, not only were the three books connected with each other, but they also gave off boundless light as three massive magic formations appeared. The largest was the Heaven Awakened World's main magic formation, which gave off boundless white light. The second was the Underworld's magic formation, which gave off boundless gray light. The third was the Godly World's magic formation, which gave off boundless golden light. Zhao Fu walked in front of the human book and stretched out his hand and placed it on the human book. The human book quickly absorbed Zhao Fu's source energy, and a large amount of source energy flowed out, causing Zhao Fu's face to become pale. However, Zhao Fu did not stop and continued to let the human book absorb his power. Boom! A shocking explosion sounded out as the human book, which had absorbed Zhao Fu's source energy, gave off a terrifying power. The massive white magic formation on the ground seemed to have received an order and gave off a heaven-toppling aura as it started to slowly spin. Boom! An explosion sounded out as a massive wave of power flowed out from the magic formation, giving off an aura that seemed to be able to break through the heavens as it rushed into the sky. Boom! A massive explosion sounded out as a massive wave of power flowed out from below the magic formation, giving off a power that seemed to be able to shatter the 9 underworlds. Within the godly world, countless residents felt a massive wave of power flow out from beneath the ground. The golden magic formation in the sky slowly spun, absorbing that wave of power, and an even greater wave of power spread out, covering the entire godly world. Within the underworld, countless residents felt a massive wave of power flow out from the sky, and the gray magic formation on the ground slowly spun, absorbing that wave of power. An even greater wave of power spread out, covering the entire godly world. Under this wave of power, the godly world and underworld started to go through changes. It was not just the residents of Qin State, but all creatures in the world were going through changes. This change was formless and indescribable. It was as if all living things were growing, as if all living things had life. Chapter 23:03. No one could explain this change clearly, but they could sense the heaven-awakened world below them, and it did not feel as if they were far away. It was as if there was a layer of wood separating them from the heaven-awakened world, and they were on top while the people from the heaven-awakened world were below. The underworld's people also felt this. The heaven-awakened world's people were above while they were below. The three worlds seemed to start to fuse, and everyone could sense the existence of the other worlds. The heaven-awakened world's power flowed into the godly world and underworld, while the godly world and underworld also flowed into the heaven-awakened world. The laws of the worlds continuously fused, forming new laws and power. At the center of the heaven-awakened world, a pair of massive eyes that seemed to contain 2 worlds slowly opened. Its deep and terrifying gaze looked ahead, and nothing in the world could block its gaze. Just by looking at it, countless higher beings looked incredibly terrified. They felt as if they had fallen into a bottomless abyss, and their souls and bodies uncontrollably trembled. Even though they were incredibly terrified, they did not dare to make a single sound. Under that pair of eyes, they felt like ants. They could not imagine who the owner of those eyes was. The pair of eyes pierced through countless worlds and landed at the boundary of the world. There was a massive pillar of light connecting the 3 worlds together. The godly world above gave off a golden energy barrier that slowly sank down, and the underworld below gave off a gray energy barrier that slowly rose up. The heaven-awakened world at the center gave off a white light that brought the 2 energy barriers together. Time gradually passed, and the two energy barriers brought the power of the two worlds together, forming a massive circle. Boom! In that moment, a massive amount of energy rippled out, resulting in a shocking explosion. Everyone in the heaven-awakened world heard this massive explosion, and their hair stood on end. Following this, the sun and moon dimmed, and clouds swirled as the sky darkened. The ground trembled, and all living beings felt uneasy, not knowing what was going on. The Fire Kingdom, Devilhorn Empire, and Second Aeolian Empire, who were near Qin City, could sense just how terrifying this power was. They felt a world-destroying power flow out from Great Qin, and it spread out like a bolt of lightning, covering countless people. Facing this power, they were unable to resist at all, and their bodies powerlessly fell to the ground, feeling despair in their hearts. Just what kind of terrifying thing was Great Qin doing? It actually emitted such a terrifying fluctuation, it simply scared countless people to death. Everyone guessed that Qin must have been hiding in the protective cover for such a long time for this purpose. Now, that he was emitting such a terrifying wave, it meant that the thing was extremely terrifying. What should we do now? Under this power, everyone felt quite terrified and did not know what to do. This thing was simply too terrifying, and it could kill countless of them. They were unable to resist at all, and could only fall into despair. Countless higher beings sensed these ripples and looked incredibly shocked. They understood that something had been born to cause these abnormal signs in the world. However, for something to cause such a massive abnormal sign, it was definitely something that could shake the heavens and earth. Indeed, what they thought was correct. Qin had fused three worlds into one, and this world did not belong to the heaven-awakened world. Qin controlled the laws of heaven and earth and the will of the world. If word of this got out, the higher beings would be given a big fright. After all, even with their abilities, they would not be able to fuse three worlds together to form a new world. Not to mention them, even immortals would find it difficult to do such a thing. The higher beings who had sensed that gaze also sensed these ripples, and massive waves crashed in their hearts. They were even more shocked than ordinary higher beings because this matter had attracted the attention of the highest existence in the world. Countless people did not dare to think about this supreme existence, as they were afraid of accidentally angering it. After all, it ruled over everything in the world, and everyone was an ant in front of it. Even celestials who could change the heavens and earth were the same. Under normal circumstances, supreme existences would fall into a deep sleep or meditate, and they would rarely give off ripples unless something shocking had happened. Ordinary earth-shattering events might not be able to attract its light pillar. Only those extremely important events that could affect it would emit a trace of fluctuation. The frequency of this fluctuation was also extremely rare. Some people might not even feel it in their entire lives. It had existed since time immemorial, and no one could compare to it. It was like a grain of sand in the river of time. It was incredibly difficult for Zhao Fu to not attract its attention. After all, whether it was the human world, the godly world, or the underworld, they were all worlds that belonged to it. The worlds formed its body. What Zhao Fu was doing was openly cutting open its body. Even though it was only a very small part, it could definitely sense this. Right now, with its indescribably terrifying power, it only needed a single thought to turn this new world into nothingness. Countless creatures would die, and no one would be able to resist. Even Zhao Fu would be the same. He would instantly turn into nothingness and disappear, unable to resist at all. After all, there was nothing in this world that could stop it. It was the only existence in this world. The massive barrier of light covered the three worlds. The top was golden, the bottom was gray, and the middle was white, making it look quite special. However, this world was many times more powerful than ordinary worlds, whether it was in terms of source energy or laws. This world was formed from three worlds fusing together. Ordinary worlds were just one world. So how could it compare to three worlds fusing together? Moreover, apart from the human world, which was a new world, The godly world and underworld were both ancient worlds. They contained ancient laws and source energy, and just the two of them could suppress this new world. The instant the three worlds fused together, the source energy of the three worlds flooded into Zhao Fu's body, causing Zhao Fu's body to once again go through changes. Zhao Fu's body started to become illusory and gave off all sorts of lights. Within the lights, there were all sorts of illusory images of things: trees, flowers, grass, mountains, rivers, humans, cows, goats, wild boars. This was the power that allowed Zhao Fu to truly possess world power and control world power. He could control the sunrise and sunset, the movement of the stars, the transformation of mountains and rivers, the growth of all things, and he was an existence that could control everything. Boom! This was not the end. Another wave of power exploded out from Zhao Fu's body. This wave of power was the 6 paths of reincarnation's power. Chapter 2304. After Zhao Fu's 6 paths of reincarnation power exploded out, it continuously flowed into the human book. The human book, heaven book, and earth book all gave off traces of gray information, and 6 gray orbs appeared in 6 directions, giving off the aura of the 6 paths of reincarnation. Boom, boom, boom. 3 massive rumbling sounds rang out at the same time as the 3 books gave off an incredibly powerful suction force that covered the 3 worlds. Countless people felt as if their bodies had been wrapped up by some sort of power as streams of aura continuously emerged from their bodies. Countless auras surged into the 3 books like a vast tide, and the 3 books gave off a powerful aura and power. Suddenly, the 3 books quickly flipped, and page after page fell to the other side. On the other side, the names gave off faint light, as if they were alive, and they were no longer ordinary names. The pages of the books flipped rapidly, and after a period of time, all the pages were flipped. The pages automatically closed and stood up. The 6 gray fog balls that were floating in the surroundings flew into the 3 books. A 6 paths of reincarnation magic formation appeared on the 3 books' covers before fusing into the books and disappearing. The ripples in the surroundings started to dissipate, and everything returned to normal. The pair of eyes looked away, which was quite surprising. Zhao Fu had been dividing its flesh, so why had it not reacted? Was it worried about something? Or was there some other reason? It was impossible to guess, but it did not seem surprised at Zhao Fu's existence, nor did it react to what Zhao Fu was doing. It was possible that it had sensed Zhao Fu's existence a long time ago, such as when it had awakened the Chaos Imperial Star, or when it had set up the Sealing Heaven's Forbidden Area in the human world. The first time it had awakened the Chaos Imperial Star was when Zhao Fu's fate had changed, and it had given off terrifying ripples. It had most likely sensed Zhao Fu's existence. The second time it had set up the Sealing Heaven's Forbidden Area in the human world was equivalent to dividing its body, and it had definitely sensed it. Even if it had not sensed Zhao Fu during those 2 times, Zhao Fu now had 7 Emperor Stars and had heaven-defying fate. It was impossible for it not to sense Zhao Fu's existence. However, it had sensed Zhao Fu but had not done anything, which was quite strange. Ordinary people would have chosen to kill Zhao Fu and destroy everything related to Zhao Fu. Now, no one could guess what its goal was. Back at Zhao Fu's body, the Heaven-Awakened world and the human world had become one world, and its laws and power were different from the Heaven-Awakened world. The human world could even change its name to the Heaven-Awakened world, as it was no longer a part of the Heaven-Awakened world. This change made Zhao Fu feel quite afraid, and he was worried that something shocking would happen. Moreover, even though the human world was connected to the Heaven-Awakened world, it no longer belonged to the Heaven-Awakened world. What Zhao Fu was worried about was whether the Heaven-Awakened world would treat him as an enemy and deal with him like how it dealt with other worlds. With Qin's current strength, he would not be able to resist at all and might be instantly destroyed. Zhao Fu waited for a while. If something happened, he would immediately leave the Heaven-Awakened world. If he could not win, he could only run. Only then would he have a chance at survival. After a while, nothing happened, and Zhao Fu let out a sigh of relief. He did not understand why this was happening. Could it be that the heaven-awakened world consciousness had not noticed him? Zhao Fu did not know that the world's consciousness had long since noticed him. Now, Zhao Fu felt that his body had gone through massive changes. His origin bloodline had become purer. It had to be known that the origin bloodline was one of the most top-tier bloodlines in the world, and there was almost nothing that could affect it. However, after absorbing the source energy of 3 worlds, his bloodline had become purer, and it could be seen just how powerful this source energy was. After obtaining this world's source energy, Zhao Fu felt that he was like the world's consciousness and could control all things in the world. Now, Zhao Fu could turn day into night or night into day. He could change the direction of rivers, change mountains, and turn summer into autumn. He could also speed up the growth of crops or reverse the growth of crops. This was not only effective for crops, but also for other living creatures. He could make a person age dozens of years or 10 or so years younger. In fact, Zhao Fu could even change the entire world according to his will and create new species. This sort of power completely surpassed anything that Zhao Fu could imagine. However, doing all of this required massive amounts of power. Even though Zhao Fu had the ability to do this, he did not have that power. He could only change a small region and could not change the entire world. Moreover, this power could only be used where Zhao Fu was, and it would be much weaker if he went other places. This was because he could use this power in the human world without being affected at all. However, after leaving the human world, it would be greatly weakened, and he might not even be able to use it. This was because Zhao Fu only had the human world's source energy. Every world's source energy and laws were different, so Zhao Fu could not forcefully change the laws of other worlds. Apart from Zhao Fu having the ability to control all things, the 3 worlds' fate had fused with Zhao Fu's fate. Zhao Fu's fate had become much stronger, and Zhao Fu could affect the entire world. If Zhao Fu became stronger, the 3 worlds' fate would become stronger as well. However, if Zhao Fu died, the 3 worlds would immediately begin to slowly decline. Zhao Fu did not feel too good about this. Even though his fate had become stronger, if he went to other places with the world's fate, he might be detected by other worlds. Moreover, Zhao Fu did not want to bind the 3 worlds to his fate. If he accidentally died, the 3 worlds would perish as well. Zhao Fu did not want this to happen because Zhao Fu understood that all people would die eventually. He did not want to die because of him. Not only would Qin City perish, but the 3 worlds would also perish. Now that things had come to this, Zhao Fu could not change anything. The 3 books were the products of the fusion of the world's source energy and laws, so they became the core items that controlled the world. Anyone who controlled the 3 books would be able to control the 3 worlds. This control was the same as Zhao Fu's control. He could control the sunrise and sunset, the movement of the stars, the change of mountains and rivers, the change of seasons, and the growth of all things. Most importantly, he could control the 3 books to do all of this, unlike Zhao Fu, who needed great power to do so. The 3 books used up the entire world's source energy. Every time he changed these phenomena, he needed a massive amount of world's power. If he used up too much of the world's source energy, the world would perish. As such, it was best to use these things to control the heavens and earth as little as possible. Chapter 23:05. Not just anyone could control the 3 books. Right now, only Zhao Fu and the world's consciousness, Spirit Maiden, could control the 3 books. Apart from Zhao Fu and Spirit Maiden, no one else could control the 3 books, even if Zhao Fu gave them permission. Only the future ruler of Qin, or someone who had conquered the 3 worlds, would be able to use the 3 books. Zhao Fu went up and placed his hand on the book floating in the air, and Zhao Fu's consciousness entered it. Through it, Zhao Fu could see everything that was happening in the 3 worlds. This feeling was like the eye of God. Nothing could stop Zhao Fu's gaze, and nothing could escape Zhao Fu's gaze, even a speck of dust in a corner. Not only that, but he could also do other things. For example, Zhao Fu could see that Xianru and her little sister were not wearing any clothes and were currently in a pool of water. Xianru also took off her veil. She was indeed a peerlessly beautiful woman, and her slender and fair body was revealed to Zhao Fu. She was incredibly alluring and could cause anyone's heart to race. Zhao Fu looked at her with a smile on his face. Her little sister, Xianling, was not bad either. She had a beautiful Xianling face, and her youthful body gave off a youthful aura. The two of them had been in the pool of water with their backs against a rock. Looking at her big sister's alluring body, Xianling could not help but stretch out her hands and give an envious smile as she said, "Big sis, your figure is so perfect. I can't help but feel moved. If I had a figure like yours, His Majesty would definitely love me." A trace of embarrassment appeared on Xianru's face as she patted her little sister's hands and covered the thing in front of her chest. She felt as if there was a pair of eyes looking at them, but Xianru could not sense anything. Xianling asked curiously, "Big sis, what's wrong? What's wrong?" Xianru let go and shook her head. "It's nothing. I might have sensed wrongly." Xianling did not continue asking and smiled as she said, "Big sis, everyone around you has received His Majesty's love. Have you ever thought about receiving His Majesty's love as well? Do you really not have any thoughts about His Majesty? I also heard that doing it with His Majesty is a very happy thing. You see, as long as a woman does it with His Majesty, they will sink into it." Xianru's face became red. She had seen Zhao Fu doing it with Tina Pendragon, Wu Qingyang, and the others a few times, and she knew how powerful Zhao Fu was. She would also have a reaction, but she resisted it. Xianru didn't hide anything from her little sister. If His Majesty favors me, I won't object. It's just that he's never had that thought." The fairy spirit was puzzled. "How could this be? With your beauty, His Majesty should like you very much. Why wouldn't he want to spoil you? I think he values your wishes too much. If you don't agree, he won't touch you. If it's any other woman he likes, she would already be moaning under him." Xianru's face became red. She thought for a moment and said, "That should be the reason." Xianling giggled as she hugged Xianru and said, "Big sis, if that's what you're thinking, let's go to His Majesty's room tonight. Otherwise, he won't touch you." Xianru's face became slightly red as she nodded. Zhao Fu, who was admiring the two sisters' bodies, felt quite surprised. He had never thought that Xianru would really agree to serve him, and he couldn't help but feel quite expectant. However, he couldn't continue looking here. Zhao Fu's gaze then turned to the godly world. Because the ripples had just died down, the commoners were still devoutly kneeling on the ground and praying to Zhao Fu, the ruler of all gods. Zhao Fu swept his gaze over them, and the commoners' faces appeared in his mind. Their expressions and movements were also quite clear, and he felt as if he was looking at all of them, making him feel quite speechless. Zhao Fu continued to look around, looking past countless mountains and rivers, but there were no changes in the godly world. Right now, Zhao Fu's gaze was restricted, and he could only look within the ceiling heaven-suppressing earth formation. Zhao Fu's gaze left the godly world and came to the underworld. He immediately saw the 12 Yellow Springs queens naked on the bed and lewdly calling out Zhao Fu's name. Zhao Fu immediately looked in another direction. He couldn't continue looking at these things. It was the same in the underworld. Nothing could stop Zhao Fu's gaze, and nothing could escape Zhao Fu's gaze. The massive underworld was within his eyes. No one noticed that there was a pair of eyes watching them. Most of the people were doing their own things as usual. Some were soldiers guarding the city walls, some were farmers carrying loads, some were chatting and laughing together, and some were not fighting with each other. Countless things were happening at the same time, and now Zhao Fu understood why the world's consciousness didn't care about such things. It was because there were simply too many things happening, and there was no way for it to care about them. As such, it just let nature take its course as long as nothing big happened. Suddenly, Zhao Fu discovered something, and his gaze turned to a yellow river. This river flowed very slowly, and there were all sorts of corpses within it. They gave off a filthy, baleful aura, making people feel quite uncomfortable. This river was the Yellow Springs River's tributary. At this moment, the reason Zhao Fu turned his gaze here was because he realized that the Yellow Springs River and its tributary actually had their own consciousness. The Yellow Springs River itself had its own consciousness. It had been in the underworld for who knew how long, and it had immense power. Normally, a tributary that was separated from its main body would have its own consciousness, which was like giving birth to a child. This consciousness would be the main body's child, and the main body's consciousness would be the tributary's mother. However, it wasn't easy for a tributary to have its own consciousness. It needed countless years of nurturing before it could have its own consciousness. If a river had its own consciousness, it would have a river spirit. A river with a river spirit would have all sorts of benefits. Not only would it be stronger, but it could also control the river's changes, and it could even be used on the battlefield. It seemed like Qin had only dug this tributary for a few years, so it shouldn't have had its own consciousness. The reason for the Yellow Springs River and consciousness was most likely because the three realms had fused into one. The three realms fused to form new laws and power, which meant that when the world was created, all sorts of source powers would flow everywhere. Some living beings in the three realms would have a huge, fortuitous encounter and become extraordinary from then on. The tributary should have absorbed the source powers of the three realms. Along with the fact that it was the Yellow Springs River, it had its own consciousness so quickly. Zhao Fu believed that after a while, the same thing would appear. For example, an ancient mountain would give birth to a mountain spirit. A huge stone would give birth to a stone spirit. A lush tree would give birth to a forest, and a beautiful flower would give birth to a flower spirit. Some wild beasts would suddenly become stronger or gain spiritual intelligence. Some people would suddenly comprehend something and have a breakthrough in their cultivation, creating a powerful cultivation technique. Chapter 23:06. Normally, when a world was created, there would be all sorts of benefits and fate, and the amount and intensity would be far greater than the current three worlds. The main thing was that the three worlds were not truly created and were just three worlds fused together. As such, there were not many opportunities, and the intensity was not great. However, the current three worlds were not in their final form, and they still had a lot of room for growth. In the future, they could become as powerful as the Heaven Awakened world. Zhao Fu planned to let the three worlds go through another transformation, which would be equivalent to true world creation. Everything would go through a qualitative change, and only then would there be more people obtaining opportunities, and the three worlds would become even more powerful. If one looked away from the three worlds and looked outside, they would see that the three worlds were covered by a circular barrier of light, and it was in a nurturing and defensive state. It was like an egg that was incubating. After a period of time, it would give birth to a new life. If the three worlds successfully went through transformation, not only would the three worlds go through changes, but the countless creatures living in the three worlds would also go through great changes, as they would go through a transformation with the world. Their bloodlines and fate would go through qualitative changes, and they would be bound to the three worlds. They would become the original races of the world. This was quite similar to the Heaven Awakened world's origin race. Perhaps the origin race had been some residents of the Heaven Awakened world who had been affected by the world creation power and obtained an origin bloodline. However, the origin race was definitely incredibly rare, and now that Zhao Fu had an origin bloodline, he knew how difficult it was to obtain it. It was already one of the top-tier bloodlines in the world. How Dao came from the celestial world, and no matter how terrifying his identity was, he only had an origin bloodline. Zhao Fu did not know if the celestial world had any bloodlines that surpassed origin bloodlines, but origin bloodlines were definitely top-tier bloodlines in the celestial world. There was no doubt about this. Now, Zhao Fu truly had his own world, a world that could control everything. At the same time, Zhao Fu felt quite curious about how the Heaven Awakened world had appeared and why it was so powerful. If he knew about these things, it would be of great benefit to the three worlds in the future, and it would help Zhao Fu make the three worlds even more powerful. However, this was almost impossible. Almost no one knew the answer to this question, and Zhao Fu would not be stupid enough to ask the heaven-awakened world consciousness. Zhao Fu knew the reasons very well. Firstly, he was nothing more than an ant in front of the world's consciousness. Even if he asked, there would be no reply. Secondly, even if the world's consciousness sensed his existence, what it wanted to do was to kill him, not answer his questions. It went without saying that nurturing a world would be extremely difficult. Who knew how much time, energy, and manpower it would take to accomplish such a feat? Therefore, Zhao Fu still had a long way to go. Now, they could make preparations. Zhao Fu controlled the three realms, and with the three realms' power, Zhao Fu had the ability to surpass higher beings. This ability was world perception. Zhao Fu could not only sense the alchemy world and outer world beside him, but he could also sense the celestial world above and the worlds below. Zhao Fu felt quite surprised about this. Zhao Fu had long since heard about the immortal world. It was an even higher level world, and it was where countless celestials lived. However, Zhao Fu did not know that there was another world below, but it was different from the immortal world. The feeling that the immortal world gave off was that it was incredibly powerful and contained all sorts of power. It was filled with life, and it felt as if there was a massive boulder weighing down on one's head. The immortal world below was deathly silent, and there were no ripples. It was as if one was standing at the top of a bottomless abyss, and if one was not careful, one would fall in and be smashed to pieces. What kind of world was this? If it was not a world, then what was it? Zhao Fu did not know much about this. Zhao Fu now had a plan, which was for the god world above to absorb the immortal world's power, and the underworld below to absorb the immortal world's power to nurture the three realms. Regardless of whether it was the upper plane or the lower plane, their power was limitless, and they weren't weak either. They were stronger than ordinary power. If the three realms could absorb the power of both, then not only would the three realms transform much faster, but it would also become much stronger. If he had to rely on himself to slowly develop, who knew how many years it would take? Zhao Fu did not know if he could live to that day. He had a plan, but the key was how to absorb the power of the immortal world. Zhao Fu did not have any ideas. This was a difficult thing. Not only did he have to absorb the power of the immortal world, but he also had to absorb a massive amount, or else he would not be able to meet the three realms' needs. For now, this matter was not urgent. After gathering information in this area, they could formulate a detailed plan. Apart from this, there was another very important thing. Before, when Zhao Fu exploded out with the 6 paths of reincarnation power, the 3 books had absorbed a large amount of it, and the auras of countless commoners in Qin had also flowed into the 3 books, revealing another important function of the 3 books. That function was to obliterate reincarnation. Now, the names recorded in the 3 books were like the book of life and death. As long as one name was erased, that person would die. Ordinary people would not be able to resist this kind of obliteration power at all. Only those who were extremely powerful and had great karmic luck could escape this kind of obliteration, but they would also be injured. This was the obliteration function and the more important reincarnation function. As long as one's name was recorded in the 3 books, their souls would not dissipate after death, nor would they enter the reincarnation cycle of heaven and earth. Instead, they would enter the reincarnation cycle controlled by Qin. Qin now had the ability to control the reincarnation cycle of countless living beings. When Qin's soldiers died, under the control of Qin's reincarnation cycle, they would continue to be reincarnated in Qin, and they would not be reincarnated anywhere else. Most importantly, if Qin controlled the reincarnation cycle, there would be many benefits, such as allowing Qin soldiers to reincarnate with their memories and power. In this way, many Qin soldiers were born with power and memory, and they had a great innate advantage. On another level, it also greatly increased Qin's strength. After countless soldiers died, there was no need to grieve for their deaths because they would still be reincarnated in Qin. They would not really die, and they would meet again after a period of time. However, everything was not as good as imagined. Right now, the reincarnation power of the three realms was still relatively weak. If there was a world stronger than the three realms and an expert that interfered, Qin's reincarnation might also fail. Most importantly, to use this kind of reincarnation power, he needed to build his own reincarnation cycle so that Qin's soldiers could be reincarnated. The three books could record the names of living beings and gather souls, but they could not directly let souls be reincarnated. So Zhao Fu still needed to build a reincarnation cycle, something like the 6 paths of reincarnation in the Yin world. Chapter 2307. Constructing reincarnation was easier said than done, but it was extremely difficult. Reincarnation contained the supreme laws of heaven and earth, and it could allow countless living beings to reincarnate. Even immortals did not have the ability to create reincarnation, let alone almighty beings. In order to create reincarnation, one had to become the ruler of a world and grasp the laws of all creatures. Moreover, one had to have great comprehension, and ordinary experts would not be able to do this. Only the world's consciousness could do this. After all, the world's consciousness was the intelligence of the entire world, and it had great comprehension towards the heavens and earth, all creatures, and all creatures. It innately grasped the laws of all creatures. However, even if a world's consciousness could create reincarnation, it was only a possibility. Right now, only the Heaven-Awakened world, and the outer world had their own 6 paths of reincarnation. The Heaven-Awakened world and the outer world did not have their own reincarnation. Those 2 worlds were as big as the Heaven-Awakened world, but they did not have reincarnation. From this, it could be seen how difficult it was to create reincarnation. For a small world like the 3 worlds, creating reincarnation was even more difficult. Despite this, Zhao Fu still wanted to create reincarnation. If the 3 worlds had reincarnation, they would be even more powerful, and reincarnation would be able to perfect the 3 worlds' laws and help the 3 worlds go through metamorphosis. It was like adding a powerful force into a machine. Even though the machine had not started yet, it would be able to perform incredibly well in the future, and its structure would be greatly strengthened. However, how could he create reincarnation? Zhao Fu sank into his thoughts. With Zhao Fu's abilities, he would not be able to create reincarnation. Even though he had grasped the laws of the heavens and earth, he did not have a deep comprehension of them. Following this, Zhao Fu called out the Spirit Maiden and asked her about creating reincarnation. The Spirit Maiden smiled as she replied, "Creating reincarnation isn't too difficult for me." Hearing this, Zhao Fu felt quite startled before feeling quite delighted. He smiled as he asked, "What's going on?" "Creating reincarnation is a very difficult thing. How come it's not a problem for you?" The Spirit Maiden smiled as she said, "Your Majesty, have you forgotten what my main body is?" Zhao Fu's expression froze as he thought to himself, "The Spirit Maiden's main body is from the human world. What does this have to do with creating reincarnation?" Seeing how confused Zhao Fu was, the Spirit Maiden smiled and explained, "Your Majesty, my main body is from the human world, and humans have developed all sorts of cultures and religions, some of which have to do with reincarnation." Zhao Fu came to his senses. In the thousands of years of human history, there had indeed been all sorts of cultures and religions. Samsara was also known as circulation, reincarnation, and the cycle of life and death. It meant that all living beings lived and died. After death, their souls would be reincarnated into another person. It was like a wheel that rotated endlessly. Among human religions, there were many religions that involved reincarnation, such as Buddhism, Taoism, Brahmanism. However, why so many religions had to do with and religions and world and gods. To one and to one too. To was and therein and two and. This was not an illusory inheritance. Instead, it was an inheritance that could unleash power. Ever since the human world was unified, Qin had conquered many different worlds, and Zhao Fu had almost forgotten about the human world. Now that he thought about it, there were still many treasures in the human world that had yet to be discovered. As the will of the world, the spirit maiden naturally possessed the inheritance of reincarnation and had a way to create reincarnation. Zhao Fu smiled and said, "Spirit maiden, how do you plan to create reincarnation?" The spirit maiden explained with a smile, "I will gather all of the inheritance of reincarnation and create a reincarnation." Do you want to create a reincarnation of the 6 paths of reincarnation or a new reincarnation with you as the master? If you are the master, it will be quite simple. You have the bloodline of the 6 paths of reincarnation as well as the powerful power of reincarnation. If it is a new reincarnation, it will be quite difficult. Zhao Fu fell into deep thought after hearing the spirit maiden's words. What should he choose? Zhao Fu was quite clear about the power of the 6 paths of reincarnation. To be safe, it would be best to create a reincarnation of the 6 paths of reincarnation. However, Zhao Fu could not help but want to create another reincarnation. The Heaven Awakened World's reincarnation was the 6 paths of reincarnation, and Zhao Fu wanted Qin to have his own reincarnation. Zhao Fu could not make a decision and asked, "Spirit Maiden, which is the best choice?" The Spirit Maiden smiled and replied, "If I choose, I would choose to create a reincarnation of the 3 realms. This kind of reincarnation has a few benefits. Firstly, the attributes of the 3 realms reincarnation will be very compatible with the 3 realms, allowing the reincarnation to be used to its fullest. Secondly, if you create the 6 paths of reincarnation, you will definitely be affected by the Heaven Awakened 6 paths of reincarnation. The Heaven Awakened 6 paths of reincarnation has been developed for countless years, and if you cultivate the 6 paths of reincarnation, you will always be suppressed. Thirdly, the 6 paths of reincarnation's attributes and future development can be determined, while the new reincarnation is still unknown. It might be even more powerful than the 6 paths of reincarnation. Fourthly, if you want the 3 realms' laws to become more complete and the 3 realms to become more powerful in the future, it would be best to choose a new reincarnation. After hearing the Spirit Maiden's words, Zhao Fu nodded. He also wanted to create a reincarnation of his own, but he was also quite worried. What kind of reincarnation would he create? The Spirit Maiden said that the attributes of a new reincarnation were all uncertain. After thinking for a while, Zhao Fu made his decision. "All right, I'll create a new reincarnation, one that belongs to the 3 realms." The Spirit Maiden smiled and said, "Your Majesty, I can create a new reincarnation right now, but I need an item that contains the essence of reincarnation as a material." An item that contained the essence of reincarnation? Hearing this, Zhao Fu felt quite troubled. An item that contained the essence of reincarnation would definitely be closely related to the 6 paths of reincarnation. Even though Zhao Fu could summon the 6 paths of reincarnation, it was not the true 6 paths of reincarnation. Instead, it was just a clone that contained the power of the 6 paths of reincarnation. Zhao Fu could not obtain any materials from the clone. If he wanted a material that contained the essence of reincarnation, he would have to go to the 6 paths of reincarnation. That place was guarded by the 6 paths demon statues, and there was a deep feud between Zhao Fu and the 6 paths demon statues. Every time the 6 paths demon statues sensed Zhao Fu's aura, they would go berserk. It was evident just how much they wanted to kill Zhao Fu. If Zhao Fu went there, he would be seeking death. Chapter 23:08. Suddenly, Zhao Fu thought of an item that contained source energy and could definitely be used as a material for a new reincarnation. That item was the 6 Daos Jade. The 6 Daos Jade was a material from the 6 paths of reincarnation, and in order to obtain it, one had to go to the 6 paths of reincarnation. With how powerful the 6 paths demon images were, even celestials could die, and there was no guarantee that one would be able to obtain the 6 Daos Jade. However, Zhao Fu did not need to go to the six paths of reincarnation to obtain the sixth Taoist jade. This was because Zhao Fu knew where the sixth Taoist jade could be found. The sixth Taoist jade was the core material for constructing the reincarnation celestial stage, and in order to construct the reincarnation celestial stage, one had to have the sixth Taoist jade. Zhao Fu knew where the reincarnation celestial stage was, and he had personally seen the sixth Taoist jade before. Back then, when Zhao Fu had completed the Cosmos Historical Remnants final trial, he had entered a reincarnation space. There was a reincarnation celestial stage there that could allow people to reincarnate and retain their memories and bloodline. Because Zhao Fu had passed the trial, he had been given a chance to use the reincarnation celestial stage. However, because Zhao Fu did not have much to do, he had not used the reincarnation celestial stage even once. Now, Zhao Fu could use the spatial key to go to the reincarnation space. This was something that had been quite difficult, but now it did not seem so difficult. Zhao Fu smiled and said, "I'll immediately go find the materials to construct the reincarnation celestial stage. Apart from this material, what other materials do you need?" The spirit maiden smiled as she said, "I only need this material." "All right." Zhao Fu nodded before leaving. He came to an empty area and took out the half-foot-long metallic key. He sent his power into the metallic key, causing it to give off boundless light and fly into the sky. The key twisted, and a 3-meter wide hole appeared in the air. Zhao Fu flew up from the ground and into the hole. Following this, Zhao Fu arrived in another space. In front of Zhao Fu was a huge altar. It was at least 1,000 meters tall. Zhao Fu stood below the altar and looked at it. It seemed as though the altar reached into the clouds without end. There was a massive gray vortex in the sky, and it gave off a massive might. At the center of the vortex was a gray magic formation that gave off intense light. The surrounding ground was very flat. Not even a blade of grass could be seen. White spirit summoning banners could be seen everywhere as far as the eye could see. They were so densely packed that it was impossible to count them all. In the middle, there was a straight stone path that led to the altar. The surroundings were filled with yin qi, making the place seem eerie. The light was dim, and standing here would cause one's hair to stand on end. There was also an ancient feeling to it, as if it had existed for a very long time. Zhao Fu looked around. This place was the same as before. Nothing had changed. Without thinking too much, Zhao Fu walked towards the altar. Zhao Fu stepped onto the stone steps. This time, there was no pressure weighing down on Zhao Fu's body, and Zhao Fu did not feel any obstructions as he continued to walk upwards. Before, Zhao Fu had already passed the test and did not need to go through again. Soon, Zhao Fu arrived at the top of the reincarnation celestial stage. There were stone statues around him, and they all looked the same. They were all old monks sitting cross-legged on the ground, chanting scriptures. They were about as tall as a normal person, and there were 300 or so of them. At the center of the altar was a 1-meter-tall, round jade stage. At the center was a round piece of black jade with the Tai Chi 6 trigrams diagram on it. There was a crack on it. Zhao Fu looked at the six-path jade and gave a trace of a smile as he walked in front of the jade stage. The reincarnation celestial stage could be used 3 times, allowing 3 people to enter the reincarnation cycle. There was a crack on it, meaning that it had been used once, and the person who had used it was most likely Old Ancestor Great Void. Old Ancestor Great Void was definitely a half-step celestial existence, or else he would not have been able to obtain the six-path jade or create such a massive cosmos historical remnant. After so many years, the reincarnated Old Ancestor Great Void had not returned. Back then, Zhao Fu had thought that something had happened. This was not something that he was worried about, so Zhao Fu did not continue to think about it and turned his attention back to the Six Paths Jade. There was a powerful restriction protecting the reincarnation celestial stage, and if he wanted to obtain the Six Paths Jade, he would have to destroy the reincarnation celestial stage. In order to destroy the reincarnation celestial stage, he would have to destroy this restriction. This restriction had naturally been set up by Old Ancestor Great Void, and it was extremely powerful. Zhao Fu sent out a few probing attacks, but not only was the restriction not damaged, but the Buddha statues all gave off light. If Zhao Fu continued to attack, he would definitely be counterattacked by the Buddha statues. As such, Zhao Fu could only stop. It was impossible to forcefully destroy this restriction. The attacks of a half-step celestial level restriction would be incredibly terrifying, and Zhao Fu would not be able to defend against it. After thinking about it, Zhao Fu returned to Qin City and went to a courtyard. Yu Ling was happily eating the pastries made by his mother, Yu Qingshui. Seeing Zhao Fu arrive, Yu Qingshui's face became red and she bowed as she said, "Greetings, Your Majesty." Seeing Zhao Fu, Yu Ling happily ran over to Zhao Fu and handed the pastries to Zhao Fu, saying, "Your Majesty, have a taste of the pastries my mother made. Try the pastries my mother makes. They're delicious." Zhao Fu smiled as he received the pastries and had a taste. It was quite good. Yu Qingshui raised her head. Her eyes danced with tears, and her face was red. She thought that Zhao Fu had come to do it with her again. It had been a long time since they had done it, and Yu Qingshui wanted it as well. She said, "Ling Er, go out and play first." Zhao Fu lightly laughed as he said, "I've come to take Yu Ling away for some matters." Yu Qingshui felt quite disappointed and said, "Oh." Seeing how disappointed her mother was, Yu Ling said obediently, "Your Majesty, can't you spend some time with your mother? Niang Qin misses you very much every day." Yu Qingshui's face became bright red, and she felt quite embarrassed. Zhao Fu held Yu Ling's little hand and smiled as he said, "After I'm done, I'll properly accompany your mother." Yu Ling happily nodded. Following this, she left with Zhao Fu. Just as Zhao Fu left, Yu Xian came to the courtyard and looked at Zhao Fu and Yu Ling before looking at his red-faced mother and could not help but sigh. Yu Xian was the world protector of the fish-scale world, and his status in Qin City was not low. Qin City treated him quite well, but he had always cared about Zhao Fu and his mother. Before, he had been quite angry because no one would accept his mother doing it with another man. However, now that his mother had fallen in love with Zhao Fu and was living happily every day, he could not do anything to stop her. Zhao Fu brought Yu Ling to the reincarnation world. Yu Ling had the rare 10,000 world constitution and had the ability to break through all restrictions. Zhao Fu had brought him here to break through that restriction. Chapter 2309. The two of them stood on the reincarnation celestial stage, and Zhao Fu said, "Later, I'll send my source energy into your body, and you can use my power to break through restrictions the restrictions on the Jade Stone stage." Yu Ling nodded earnestly. Zhao Fu stood behind Yu Ling and sent a powerful wave of source energy into Yu Ling's body. Yu Ling's body gave off all sorts of lights and a massive source energy aura. Boom! Yu Ling stretched out a hand, and a wave of power flowed out from his palm. Waves of rainbow light continuously spread out and moved towards the jade platform. A transparent, illusory light appeared on the jade platform. It was the restriction. Zhao Fu did not tell Yu Ling to forcefully destroy it, and he only had Yu Ling slowly disintegrate the restriction's power. The waves of light lightly collided with the light, and the light gradually dimmed. Half a day passed, and Zhao Fu looked quite tired. Yu Ling had it the hardest, and his body was covered with beads of sweat, looking quite tired. However, at that moment, the illusory, transparent light had already disappeared. Zhao Fu smiled and withdrew his power. He had Yu Ling rest at the side while he went to the jade platform. He stretched out a hand and grabbed at the air. A formless energy spread out and grabbed the black Tai Chi 8 trigrams jade, which flew in front of Zhao Fu. Holding this 6 Daos jade, Zhao Fu sensed the reincarnation power within it. It was quite powerful and could be used as a reincarnation material. Following this, Zhao Fu smiled and left the reincarnation space with Yu Ling. After telling Yu Ling to go back and rest, Zhao Fu went to a tower and looked at the spirit maiden waiting there. Zhao Fu smiled and handed the 6 Daos jade to her as he said, Have a look and see if this 6 jade can satisfy your requirements. The spirit maiden took the 6 jade and carefully sensed the reincarnation source energy within it as she smiled and said, "This 6 jade contains reincarnation source energy and can be used as a reincarnation material." Zhao Fu asked, "How are you going to build the reincarnation wheel now?" The spirit maiden smiled. "Come with me, your majesty." The spirit maiden waved a hand, and a burst of energy enshrouded Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu's vision blurred, and he found himself in an extremely cold and murky space. This space was very big. It was not clear how big it was, but there was nothing inside. There was also no sound. It was quiet all around. Zhao Fu asked curiously, "What is this place?" The spirit maiden explained with a smile, "This space is the deepest space in the Earth realm. It was nurtured by the Earth realm, so it's filled with yin qi. The next reincarnation will need to be constructed here." Zhao Fu responded. The spirit maiden came to the front and sent a wave of power into the 6 jade in her hand. The 6 jade gave off a black light and flew into the air from the spirit maiden's hand before expanding to 10 times its original size. A black Tai Chi 8 trigrams diagram that was over 10 meters tall floated in the air, giving off a black light and a powerful reincarnation power. The spirit maiden stretched out a hand toward the black Tai Chi 8 trigrams diagram, and a massive wave of inheritance power flowed out from her hand. This wave of power was rainbow-colored, and after it flowed out, it split into different colors before forming balls of light. These balls of light were each 1 meter wide, and they floated in front of the spirit maiden, giving off different colors of light and inheritance power. There were also many projections within them. Some were monks, some were Taoist priests, some were sorcerers, some were demons, some were benevolent elderly men, and some were beautiful young women. These were all the human world's inheritances related to the reincarnation wheel, and there were 37 of them. The spirit maiden stretched out a hand with a solemn expression, and the balls of light floating in front of her flew toward the black Tai Chi 8 trigrams diagram and fused into it. Boom! A massive wave of power spread out as the Tai Chi 8 trigrams diagram gave off countless rainbow-colored lights, illuminating the surroundings and illuminating the entire murky space. The spirit maiden stretched out her hand and slowly twisted. The rainbow-colored Tai Chi 8 trigrams diagram started to spin. However, it was not very fast, and it only spun slowly. Boom! 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 3 explosions sounded out as the heaven, earth, and man books exploded out with terrifying power, giving off boundless intense light. The power of heaven and earth continuously gathered and flowed into the 3 books. In front of the spirit maiden, a golden book giving off a holy aura, a white book giving off the aura of all living beings, and a gray book giving off a cold and sinister aura appeared. These 3 books were clones of the heaven, earth, and man books. They were not the actual books, but they gave off the powerful power of the heaven, earth, and man books. After the 3 books appeared, they turned into 3 streaks of light and shot into the Tai Chi 8 trigrams diagram. The Tai Chi 8 trigrams diagram, which had been slowly spinning, quickly started to spin like a disc. Massive waves of reincarnation power continuously spread out, and nothing could stop this wave of power. The rainbow-colored Tai Chi 8 trigrams diagram spun faster and faster, and the reincarnation power it gave off became more and more powerful. The surrounding space seemed to be unable to withstand this wave of power. Boom! An earth-shattering explosion sounded out as the rapidly spinning Tai Chi 8 trigrams diagram exploded into countless streaks of light that shot out in all directions. It was extremely powerful, and no one could stop it. The light was very blinding, and it was impossible to see anything. Zhao Fu, who was standing at the back, could not help but cover his eyes with his hand. After a few minutes, the lights slowly dissipated, and Zhao Fu removed his hand. A rainbow-colored wheel of light had appeared in the air. It was not very big, only about 1 meter wide, but gave off an extremely powerful reincarnation power. Zhao Fu looked at the rainbow-colored wheel of light in shock. This is the completed reincarnation wheel. Boom! A massive explosion sounded out as the spirit maiden grabbed out with her hand. The entire realm trembled, and countless living beings were given a big fright. Boundless Yin-Chi flooded into the space like a boundless ocean, flowing into the rainbow-colored wheel of light. No matter what kind of reincarnation wheel it was, whether it was new or old, it was definitely Yin type. This was because the soul attribute and reincarnation attribute were both Yin type. If it was not Yin type, there was no way for souls to reincarnate. This was a powerful law of heaven and earth, and not many people could break it. Right now, the Spirit Maiden was controlling the massive amount of Yin-Chi in the realm and pouring it into the Wheel of Light, turning it into a pure Yin-type reincarnation wheel. Consuming such a massive amount of Yin-Chi would greatly affect the realm, but as long as they could complete the reincarnation wheel, it would all be worth it. The ocean-like Yin-Chi continuously flowed into the Wheel of Light, and the color of the Wheel of Light slowly turned gray. Light continuously condensed and started to materialize, and a gray crystalline disk slowly appeared. Chapter 23:10. Seeing the gray crystal disk materialize, a smile appeared on the Spirit Maiden's face. She stopped sending her power into the disk and turned to Zhao Fu as she said, "Your Majesty, the reincarnation wheel has already been constructed. Now that the cycle of reincarnation has been constructed, as the Lord of the Three Realms, you possess many terrifying powers. You can bestow the cycle of reincarnation with attributes." Zhao Fu thought about how giving attributes to the reincarnation wheel was very important, as it would determine how strong or weak the reincarnation wheel would be in the future. For example, the 6 Paths of Reincarnation wheel was originally just a stone disk that only had the function of reincarnation and did not have any attributes. The world's consciousness sent a type of power into the stone disk, causing it to gain attributes. This was the 6 Paths attribute, which contained 6 different types of power: Heavenly Dao power, Hell Dao power, Hungry Ghost Dao power, Human Dao power, Azura Dao power, and Animal Dao power. Heavenly Dao, Azura Dao, and Human Dao were the 3 good Daos, while Animal Dao, Hungry Ghost Dao, and Hell Dao were the 3 evil Daos. Both sides had the same amount of good and evil, maintaining a balance and stabilizing the reincarnation wheel. The reincarnation wheel had to withstand the reincarnation of countless creatures, and it needed a large amount of power to support it. It also needed to be extremely stable. Only then could it be guaranteed that there would be no problems. Now, what Zhao Fu needed to do was send his power into the reincarnation wheel to increase its power and stability. Zhao Fu walked forwards with a serious expression and stretched out a hand towards the gray crystal disk that gave off powerful reincarnation wheel power. The gray crystal disk seemed to have its own consciousness, and it sensed that Zhao Fu had come before it and wanted to absorb Zhao Fu's power. Boom! A massive explosion sounded out as Zhao Fu activated the Chaos Imperial Star's power. Within the boundless void, the blood-red star gave off a terrifying ripple as a blood-red aura flame burst out from Zhao Fu's body, and a massive aura of disaster flooded out. A wave of blood-red disaster power shot out from Zhao Fu's hand and into the gray crystal disk. The gray crystal disk excitedly and hungrily absorbed the power. The Chaos Imperial Star was Zhao Fu's fate star. It was the Emperor Star that had the greatest influence on Zhao Fu. As such, the reincarnation power he sent into it had to be powerful, so Zhao Fu used the Chaos Imperial Star's power first. Within the boundless void, the Chaos Imperial Star continuously gave off massive amounts of disaster energy that flowed into Zhao Fu's body, and Zhao Fu continuously sent this disaster energy into the gray disk. The gray crystal disk floating in the air looked as if it had been dyed with blood, turning into a blood-red crystal disk. It gave off a faint light and a powerful disaster power. At the very center of the crystal disk, there was a deep blood-colored circular mark. It exuded an extremely terrifying aura of disaster that made people feel very uncomfortable. Zhao Fu felt quite surprised. He had never thought that by sending his fate star's power into the reincarnation, he would be able to change its attributes. This was not a simple change. It was a qualitative change, which was why the gray disk had become blood red. Even though the reincarnation's power was still Yin energy, the power that the reincarnation gave off was a type of disaster energy. It was an ominous power, which made people feel incredibly uncomfortable and their hair stand on end. Now that the reincarnation was not satisfied, Zhao Fu could only continue to send in large amounts of disaster imperial star power. Suddenly, the blood-red crystal disk once again began to slowly spin, and countless amounts of Yin Qi from the surroundings surged into it. The disk infused the immense reincarnation power into the blood-red circular mark in the center. The circular mark seemed to have a life of its own, and it also began to spin slowly. Time gradually passed, and the reincarnation's power continuously flowed into the circular mark. The blood-red color at the center of the mark gradually disappeared, and traces of law-like lines started to spread out. In the end, they formed a deep blood-red ring that gave off a profound, powerful, cold, and calamitous aura. Zhao Fu sensed a Tao power from within it, which was similar to the heavenly Tao, Hell Tao, and Azura Tao. In other words, the reincarnation did not have ordinary disaster energy, but an even more powerful disaster energy. Now that the reincarnation stopped absorbing Zhao Fu's power, Zhao Fu withdrew his power and sent his consciousness into the reincarnation to sense the disaster energy. Boom! An explosion sounded out, and Zhao Fu felt as if he had entered a world of disaster. The sky was blood-red, the ground was cracked, volcanoes were erupting, wild gales were blowing, hail was falling, people were fighting, and people were falling sick. A boundless aura of disaster flooded toward Zhao Fu, causing Zhao Fu's body to feel cold and uncomfortable. It was an ominous feeling. Zhao Fu felt incredibly shocked. The disaster energy was extremely powerful and was a type of great Tao energy. It was incredibly pure and was a type of source energy, and it was many times more powerful than ordinary disaster energy. Zhao Fu's consciousness returned to his body, and he gave a trace of smile. Now that the reincarnation had created the disaster energy, it had the same power as the 6 paths of reincarnation. Because the reincarnation had just been constructed, the disaster energy was still quite weak and could not compare to the 6 paths of reincarnation's true power. However, Zhao Fu was very confident that the disaster energy would be as powerful as the 6 paths of reincarnation. The ring, which was originally in the center, now moved to the top of the disk. Zhao Fu smiled as he once again gathered the human race's Emperor Star's power. Boom! A massive explosion sounded out as a golden star in the boundless void gave off a massive might. Boundless golden light shot out as a massive wave of the human race's power flowed out and entered Zhao Fu's body. A golden aura flame erupted around Zhao Fu's body, and Zhao Fu once again stretched out a hand. A golden ray of light shot out from Zhao Fu's hand and quickly entered the blood-red disk. The reincarnation once again excitedly absorbed Zhao Fu's power. As the human race's Emperor Star's power continuously increased, a golden circular mark once again appeared at the center of the disk, giving off a human aura. Boom! Countless traces of Yin Qi flooded into the disk, causing it to start to spin. Countless traces of reincarnation power flowed into the golden circular mark. The golden circular mark was the same as the blood-red mark from before. The blood-red color at the center slowly receded, and traces of laws spread out, forming a golden ring that gave off a human aura. Zhao Fu stopped sending power into the golden ring, and his consciousness entered it. It was as if he had entered a world of the human race, and there were all sorts of humans living there. This power was human path power, and it was quite similar to the human path power in the 6 paths of reincarnation. However, there was one difference. Zhao Fu's human path power gave off a noble and imperial aura. The reason for this was most likely because Zhao Fu was originally from the human race, and even though he had many other bloodlines, they were mainly from the human race. Chapter 23:11. That was why it gave off such a noble emperor's aura. The Chaos Imperial Star was an Emperor Star fused with the Chaos Imperial Star and the Myrtle Star. Even though it was an Emperor Star, it was more of a disaster type, so it did not give off an Emperor's aura. In order to differentiate his human path from the 6 paths of reincarnation's human path, Zhao Fu decided to change the human path to the human Emperor path. Within the illusory world formed by the Golden Ring, there were many emperors, so calling it the human Emperor path was more fitting. The Golden Ring moved to the bottom of the disc. Zhao Fu once again activated the Nether Emperor Star's power, and a gray ghost star in the boundless void gave off boundless gray light. A massive wave of cold, ghostly energy exploded out and entered Zhao Fu's body. Boom! An explosion once again sounded out as a gray, ghostly flame appeared around Zhao Fu's body, and a gray wave of energy shot out from Zhao Fu's hand into the disc. Boom! An explosion once again sounded out as the reincarnation disc gave off a massive attractive force, and countless traces of Yin Qi ferociously gathered. This was especially so for the Yellow Springs Kingdom and the Yellow Springs, which gave off countless traces of yellow aura and followed the Yin Qi over. Zhao Fu had not expected this, and he thought that it was most likely because he had sent in ghostly energy and the Earth domain was where the reincarnation world was. Zhao Fu continuously sent his Death Race Emperor Star into the disc, and the surrounding Yin Qi and Yellow Springs aura continuously flowed into it. Finally, a gray circular mark appeared, and the reincarnation disc started to spin. Large amounts of reincarnation power flowed into it, and a gray ring was formed, giving off massive amounts of Yin Qi and Yellow Springs aura. Zhao Fu's consciousness entered the ring, and he found himself in a ghost world. This place was gray and hazy, and there was ghostly qi everywhere. There were all sorts of ghosts and monsters, powerful ghosts, savage ghosts, hungry ghosts, and wandering ghosts. Apart from the countless ghosts, there was also a wide yellow river that gave off a filthy aura. This energy was similar to the Disaster Path's energy, and it was a type of Great Tao energy, a type of source energy. It was much more powerful than ordinary ghostly energy. Zhao Fu named this energy the Ghost Springs Path because it contained both ghostly energy and Yellow Springs aura. Boom! A massive explosion sounded out as Zhao Fu once again used the power of an Emperor Star. Within the boundless void, a violet star gave off boundless violet light, and a heaven-toppling devil power flowed out. A violet devil flame burst forth from Zhao Fu's body as a massive wave of devil energy flowed out from Zhao Fu's hand, giving off a powerful aura as it entered the round disc. Boom! An explosion suddenly sounded out as a Taiji symbol appeared in front of Zhao Fu's chest, giving off a powerful sun-moon devil power. Within a square-shaped barrier in Qin City, there were countless monsters within. Mama Jiggery, Tamamuname, Shutendoji, and the Daitengu all sensed something, and massive waves of monster chi uncontrollably flowed out. Zhao Fu felt a massive wave of devil power flow into his body before entering the circular disc. A circular violet mark appeared, giving off a powerful and savage devil power. The circular disc continued to spin, and a massive wave of samsara power flowed into it, causing the violet mark to become a violet ring. Zhao Fu's consciousness entered it, and found that the world was filled with devil chi. There were all sorts of devil beasts and savage and twisted monsters living here. Zhao Fu named it the Devil Ferocious Path because the devil beasts and devil races were all incredibly savage and terrifying. Boom! A massive explosion once again sounded out as a black star in the boundless void gave off a heaven-shaking demonic might, and a massive wave of demon star power flowed out. A wave of demonic flames burst forth from Zhao Fu's body, and a massive wave of demonic energy flowed into the round disc. Suddenly, Zhao Fu's eyes became blood-red rose-like eyes, and an evil spirit abyss flower's power exploded out from Zhao Fu's body and shot into the round disc. The round disc excitedly absorbed the evil spirit abyss flower and demon emperor star's power. The demon lord star and evil spirit abyss flower were both of the demonic attribute, and they were closely related. Zhao Fu had relied on the evil spirit abyss flower to awaken the demon lord star. Now that Zhao Fu sent in the demon lord star's power, the evil spirit abyss flower's power uncontrollably flowed out. The two waves of power continuously flowed into it, and a black circular mark appeared. The round disc slowly spun, and massive amounts of samsara power flowed into it, causing the black circular mark to become a black ring. Zhao Fu's consciousness entered it, and he felt as if he had come to a demon world. The sky was black, and the ground was also black. There were all sorts of demon races living here, including ferocious demons, purple-eyed high-level demon lords, and beast-headed demon beasts. What was most noteworthy was that there was a massive evil spirit abyss flower growing within, and it seemed to reach into the clouds. Its massive and thick roots stabbed into the ground, covering a large area, and it gave off a massive evil power. This power was a fusion of the demon lord star and evil spirit abyss flower, and it was incredibly terrifying. Zhao Fu named it the evil spirit flower path. Boom! Zhao Fu once again activated the Outlander Emperor Star's power. This time, it was an Outlander Emperor Star, and it gave off boundless green light as a massive wave of Outlander power flowed out, causing the surroundings to tremble. The massive wave of Outlander power flowed into Zhao Fu's body, and a green aura flame appeared around Zhao Fu's body, forming a wild gale that blew out. Boom! Zhao Fu stretched out a hand and pressed down, and a massive wave of green energy flowed out, giving off a powerful aura as it rushed into the round disc, and the round disc quickly absorbed this wave of energy. Suddenly, another wave of energy exploded out from Zhao Fu's body. This wave of energy gave off a powerful, noble, and supreme aura. It was Zhao Fu's King of Kings' power. King of Kings' power came from the first King of Kings, who had unified an entire Outlander world. His legacy power was one of the most powerful powers in the world. This wave of energy flowed into the round disc, and soon, a green circular diagram appeared at the center of the round disc, giving off powerful Outlander power. The reincarnation wheel once again spun, and countless traces of reincarnation power flowed into it, causing the green circular diagram to become a green ring. Zhao Fu's consciousness entered it, and he came to a place where many Outlanders lived. There were Minotaurs, horsemen, pigmen, lion people, tiger people, and others. Apart from these Outlanders, there were also Outlanders giving off King's auras. Zhao Fu guessed that they were most likely affected by King of Kings' power, which was why there were so many Outlander kings. Zhao Fu named this power the Outlander King Path. The final star was the god race's Emperor Star, and it gave off boundless light that covered the surroundings. A massive wave of divine power continuously flowed into Zhao Fu's body. Chapter 23:12. Boom! A massive explosion sounded out as Zhao Fu sent the celestial race's power into the round disc, which quickly absorbed it. At this moment, Zhao Fu's hair turned transparent, and a circular mirror appeared on Zhao Fu's forehead, giving off the aura of the Lord of Gods. Zhao Fu entered the Lord of Gods state and sent the 10,000 gods' power into the round disc. After absorbing this powerful wave of 10,000 godly power, the disc became incredibly excited and continuously absorbed. It understood how powerful this wave of power was. This wave of 10,000 godly power was Zhao Fu's strongest power. A white circular mark slowly appeared on the round disc, and the reincarnation continued to spin. Massive amounts of reincarnation power flowed into it, and a white ring appeared, giving off a divine power. Zhao Fu's consciousness entered it, and came to a place where countless celestial race people lived. There were many ordinary celestial race people living on the ground, and there were powerful celestial race people standing in the sky. At the very top of the sky, there was an ancient white mirror. This was quite surprising. This power was not much stronger than the 10,000 gods' power, only slightly stronger. It was most likely because the 10,000 gods' power had reached its limit, and it would be very difficult to break through again. Zhao Fu named this power the Divine Sky Mirror Dao. Right now, there were already 7 palm-sized rings on the disk, and they were distributed in 7 different directions, emitting different powers and auras, respectively representing the ultimate power. Just like the 6 realms' power, they belonged to the power of the Great Dao, the power of the Source. They were the power of the Disaster Dao, the Human Emperor Dao, the Ghost Spring Dao, the Ominous Demon Dao, the Demonic Flower Dao, the Variant King Dao, and the Godly Sky Mirror Dao. The newly constructed reincarnation could become the 7 Paths reincarnation and had the power of the 7 Paths. The reincarnation's power was many times stronger and gave off an even greater reincarnation power. It already looked like the 6 Paths reincarnation. The 7 Paths reincarnation now had the power and would not lose to the 6 Paths reincarnation's power. However, its stability was still lacking. The Disaster Dao, Ghost Spring Dao, Monster Dao, and Evil Demon Flower Dao belonged to the 4 evil Daos because their power was evil and dark and could cause great slaughter and destruction. The Human Emperor Dao, the Strange King Dao, and the Divine Sky Mirror Dao were not evil, dark, and murderous powers. Although they were very strong, they belonged to the 3 benevolent Dao. If he wanted the reincarnation cycle to be more stable, it was best to maintain a balance between the good and evil paths. Right now, there were 4 evil paths, but there were only 3 good paths, so the reincarnation cycle was somewhat unstable. However, the reincarnation wheel that he had constructed was still in a state of growth. In the future, he would have to continue increasing its power to maintain the reincarnation wheel's stability and power. Zhao Fu was just about to leave this place with the Spirit Maiden. Now that the reincarnation palace had been constructed, they could continue to develop it, and it would slowly become more powerful. Suddenly, Samsara sent another thought to Zhao Fu, wanting the other 2 bloodline powers in his body. Zhao Fu's body stopped, and a strange expression appeared on his face. He hadn't expected Samsara to want these 2 bloodline powers. The first bloodline power was the bloodline of the number 1 heretic immortal of the primal chaos world. The number 1 heretic immortal was the creator of the 8 forbidden blood arts. However, after obtaining his legacy, it caused the primal chaos world to change. It was definitely a terrifying legacy. However, the bloodline that the number 1 heretic immortal had given him was very low grade and ordinary. It didn't have much power, and it had to devour countless primal chaos beings to become powerful. The second bloodline was the alchemy bloodline that Zhao Fu had created. Its power was quite ordinary, and it wasn't a very powerful bloodline. Zhao Fu felt quite confused. Why did Samsara need these 2 bloodline powers? Zhao Fu hadn't developed these 2 bloodline powers yet, so they weren't very powerful. After thinking about it, since Samsara wanted them, there had to be a corresponding use for it. As such, Zhao Fu decided to inject these 2 bloodline powers into it. The first was the heretic immortal bloodline power. Zhao Fu stretched out a hand and pressed down, and a massive, evil, twisted, and bloody power flowed out of Zhao Fu's hand, giving off a powerful aura as it flowed into the round disc. Boom! 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 The 8 scorching suns in the sky of the primal chaos world suddenly exploded out with massive auras, giving off even more intense light, as if they were going to burn the entire world. The primal chaos beings and powerful insect beasts looked at the sky, and their expressions fell. They looked up at the 8 piercing suns in the sky, feeling as if the 8 suns' power was being sucked away by something. Zhao Fu sensed these ripples, and could sense that Samsara was using his power to activate the 8 suns in the primal chaos world, causing them to mutate. Now it was even sucking in the 8 suns' power. Countless traces of fiery power flowed into the round disk, causing it to quickly spin and absorb the sun's power. The fiery threads gathered at the center of the round disk, forming a fiery ring that gave off a fiery, bloody, and chaotic power. Zhao Fu felt quite curious and sent his consciousness into it. He saw a blue sky without any clouds, and the 8 suns gave off searing light that roasted the ground. The immense heat could roast countless creatures to death. There were some primal chaos beings living on the ground, as well as all sorts of insect beasts and aquatic beasts. The various races were either madly killing and devouring each other, or madly mating, giving birth to savage-looking monsters. The scene was incredibly bloody and disgusting. Zhao Fu felt quite disappointed. He had thought that because of the 8 suns, the primal chaos world would be a good world. He had never thought that the primal chaos world would be so bloody, twisted, and evil. This power was a type of power formed from the 8 forbidden blood art and the 8 suns' power. Now, through Samsara's creation, it had become a great Tao source power. As such, Zhao Fu had named this power the 8-day Tao seal. The final power was the alchemy bloodline power. This time, Zhao Fu sent it into Samsara, but nothing happened. Samsara continuously absorbed the alchemy bloodline power and gathered countless traces of Yin energy, forming a silver circular mark that looked like metal. Samsara started to spin, sending Samsara power into it. The silver light at the center of the circular mark slowly retreated, and traces of nomological laws spread out. A silver ring giving off powerful alchemy bloodline power appeared, giving off a faint metallic light. Zhao Fu's consciousness entered it, and it was as if he had entered an alchemy world. The people living here were all alchemists, and the plants growing here were half metal and half plant. Some were even completely metal. Compared to those strange, terrifying, and savage worlds, this place seemed quite ordinary and did not have any special power. Zhao Fu simply named this power alchemy path. Even though the path of alchemy had been changed by the reincarnation cycle and had become a powerful source energy, it was still much weaker than other Taos. Zhao Fu could not understand why the reincarnation cycle needed the alchemy bloodline's power. After withdrawing his consciousness, Zhao Fu looked at Samsara in front of him. It suddenly changed again. Chapter 23:13. 9 palm-sized circles were scattered around the blood-red disk, forming a circle that emitted a faint glow of different colors. Thin lines stretched out from the circles, intersecting, fusing, and changing. Finally, they formed a spell formation made up of 9 circles. Boom! At that moment, a massive wave of reincarnation power exploded out, forming a wave of light that spread out with a powerful aura, creating a massive explosion. Countless rainbow-colored lights shone out, illuminating the entire reincarnation dimension. A massive wave of reincarnation might press down on the dimension, causing it to seem to freeze. The blood-red color of the blood-red disk started to fade, and the blood-red crystal disk became transparent again. There was a spell formation made up of 9 different colored circles, giving off a powerful reincarnation power. This spell formation was naturally the reincarnation spell formation. Zhao Fu understood why the reincarnation needed to refine the bloodline. It most likely wanted to gather the 9 paths of reincarnation and use them to create a powerful reincarnation spell formation. With the reincarnation spell formation, the 9 paths of reincarnation would become one, and it would be even more powerful and stable than the 9 paths of reincarnation. The current reincarnation was the true reincarnation. After a while, the light from the reincarnation disappeared. There was no more might from before, and it just silently floated in the air. Zhao Fu and the Spirit Maiden looked at the reincarnation that had finally evolved and gained an element, and they both smiled. The reincarnation dimension had been constructed, and there were 9 paths of reincarnation. However, the reincarnation itself was still weak. Even though it could reincarnate the people of Qin, the number was limited. Right now, the reincarnation dimension had just been constructed, and it was only 1 meter wide. It could at most allow 1,000 people to reincarnate, and it could not allow more people to reincarnate. If they wanted more people to reincarnate, they had to develop the reincarnation dimension. The reincarnation dimension had fused with the 3 realms, and it did not need to be nurtured on its own. As long as the 3 realms became stronger, the reincarnation dimension would also become stronger. As more and more people reincarnated, the reincarnation dimension's power would also increase, helping it understand the great Tao of reincarnation. The reincarnation dimension was extremely important to the 3 realms. In the future, it would control the reincarnation of all living beings in the 3 realms, so nothing could happen to it. The reincarnation dimension was in the depths of the Earth realm, but it was still possible for people to barge in and harm the reincarnation dimension. As such, Zhao Fu wanted to nurture the 6 paths demon images to protect the reincarnation dimension. Zhao Fu knew very well how powerful the 6 paths demon images were. He still had the 6 demon images sealed in his body, and they could not only protect the reincarnation, but they could also participate in battles. Zhao Fu thought and decided to nurture the 9 paths demon images as. As for how to nurture them, Zhao Fu already had a way. After all, he had the 6 paths demon images clones and knew some information. After the 6 worlds grew for a long time, they would give birth to their own consciousnesses, which could become the 6 paths demon images consciousnesses. In other words, the 6 paths demon images consciousnesses were the consciousnesses of the 6 worlds. After a long time, the 6 paths demon images would give birth to their own consciousnesses, which could become the 6 paths demon images consciousnesses. In other words, the 6 paths demon images consciousnesses were the consciousnesses of the 6 paths demon images. It was because of this that the 6 paths demon images could gather boundless reincarnation power and could destroy the heavens and earth. No one dared to offend such existences, not even celestials. Now, Zhao Fu only needed to nurture the 9 paths demon images as he had nurtured the 6 paths demon images. Of course, he could not nurture them now, as the reincarnation dimension had just been constructed and the 9 paths world had not formed yet. How could they give birth to their own consciousnesses? Moreover, the 9 paths reincarnation dimension could still advance. It cannot be forgotten that Zhao Fu still had 2 Emperor stars that he had not awakened yet. Since he could use the Emperor stars to create the reincarnation path, he could naturally create 2 more reincarnation paths. That would be the 11 paths of reincarnation, the final form of the reincarnation path. As for the 9 paths demon images, Zhao Fu wanted to do what he had done with the 6 paths demon images and wipe out their consciousnesses. They were powerful existences born from the heavens and earth, and they innately grasped the source energy of all laws. As the 6 paths of reincarnation became more powerful, they would become even more powerful and would have the power to destroy everything. The key thing was whether their consciousnesses were purely evil or kind. If they were kind, they could be controlled, but if they were purely evil and murderous, it would be very difficult to control. Adding on their terrifying power, it was possible that they would suffer a backlash. If the 6 paths demon images suffered a backlash, even the heaven-awakened world consciousness would be heavily injured, so Zhao Fu had to be careful. Of course, preserving their consciousnesses was also very beneficial, as they could comprehend even more power and become even more terrifying existences. After thinking about it for a while, Zhao Fu thought of a method that could preserve the 6 paths demon images consciousnesses and prevent them from suffering a backlash. Zhao Fu's method was to split his soul into 9. Since the 9 paths of reincarnation world had not yet been formed, Zhao Fu could use his soul as the main body to nurture the world's consciousness. That way, the 9 paths demon images would be equivalent to 9 clones of Zhao Fu's consciousness, and Zhao Fu would be able to completely control them. Following this, Zhao Fu stood there and closed his eyes as he started to split his soul. The process was incredibly painful, as Zhao Fu's soul had formed a yin-yang soul flame. Under Zhao Fu's control, black and white orbs of light split off and floated out of Zhao Fu's forehead. There were 9 orbs of light in total, and 2 orbs of light were black and white. Zhao Fu opened his eyes and stretched out his hand, controlling the 9 black and white orbs of light to fly into the 9 rings and fuse with them. Now that everything had been taken care of, the next step was to nurture the 9 paths of reincarnation and make it powerful enough to control the reincarnation of all creatures in the Heaven Awakened world. After building the 9 paths of reincarnation, having 9 attributes was greatly beneficial to Zhao Fu. The 9 paths of reincarnation were bound to Zhao Fu, and Zhao Fu could become the owner of the 9 paths of reincarnation and truly control the 9 paths of reincarnation. Zhao Fu could also send a dead person into the 9 paths of reincarnation and have them reincarnate. The Great Void Ancestor had spent countless precious materials to build the reincarnation celestial stage, and it could only be used 3 times. However, Zhao Fu could use it limitlessly. It was just that he had to become a subject of Qin, so that his name would be recorded in the Book of the 3 Realms. Zhao Fu could use the reincarnation power of the 3 realms to have him reincarnate within the 3 realms. Moreover, Zhao Fu had the 9 paths of reincarnation power: the Disaster Path, Human Emperor Path, Ghost Spring Path, Ferocious Demon Path, Evil Demon Flower Path, Variant King Path, Divine Sky Mirror Path, 8 Days Restriction Path, and Alchemy Path. Chapter 23:14. These 9 rays of power were the 9 paths of reincarnation power, not the 9 powers that Zhao Fu had before. They fused with the reincarnation power to form a new kind of power. The 9 paths of reincarnation power could also fuse with the 6 paths demon images to form the reincarnation path's power, which was Zhao Fu's unique power. However, because the reincarnation path had just been constructed, the 9 paths of reincarnation power could not compare to the 6 paths of reincarnation power. However, when the 9 paths of reincarnation grew, it could definitely be called a supreme power, and it would not be any weaker than Zhao Fu's 10,000 godly power. Following this, Zhao Fu and the Spirit Maiden left this place. However, neither Zhao Fu nor the Spirit Maiden noticed that the moment the reincarnation path had been formed, a pair of indescribable eyes had been watching them. However, this pair of eyes did not do anything and allowed Qin to construct the reincarnation path. Its reaction was quite strange. Why did it allow Qin to create a new world and allow Qin to construct a new reincarnation path without doing anything? More importantly, Qin could threaten it, and most people would want to get rid of such a potential threat. Now that it allowed Qin to develop, perhaps it had some ulterior motive or scheme. Otherwise, no one could think of a reason. However, why would a supreme ruler plot against an existence that was as small as a grain of sand? Countless people could not figure this out. But what was certain was that no matter what it did, Qin would not be able to resist at all, unless other great 1,000 worlds joined in. Because they were existences of the same level, they would have the power to resist it. Now that the 3 realms had only just been formed, there were many things to take care of. Zhao Fu returned to the Qin Imperial Palace and gathered his subordinates to discuss this matter. Zhao Fu first told his subordinates about the 3 realms. After hearing that Qin had become an independent world, had its own laws, and had its own reincarnation path, the subordinates were incredibly shocked, and they all praised Zhao Fu. Now, everyone understood how great Qin's potential was in the future. Which faction would be able to become an existence like the Heaven Awakened world? In the entire Heaven Awakened world, there was almost no faction that could have an independent world and laws like Qin. In the future, Qin would also become a country that ruled over the myriad realms. Just thinking about it made people excited. All of this was done by His Majesty. Many ministers had a kind of fanatical worship and belief in Zhao Fu. As long as His Majesty was there was nothing to be afraid of. Now that Qin had mastered reincarnation, they didn't have to be afraid of death, and they could be reincarnated. Which force had such an advantage? No force could do it. Countless people wanted to shout from the bottom of their hearts, "Long live Qin! Long live Qin! Long live Qin!" In the past, Qin Shi Huang wanted to unify the world as the first emperor, but he died because of the second emperor of Qin. As the successor of Qin Shi, Zhao Fu was definitely capable of accomplishing Qin Shi Huang's unfinished dream, which was to unify the world and dominate the spring and autumn period. Hearing the minister's praises, Zhao Fu gave a trace of a smile and started to discuss Qin's future with the ministers. The first thing to do was to change the name of the world. Qin's territory in the godly world would be changed to the heaven world. Qin's territory in the heaven-awakened world would be changed to the human world, and Qin's territory in the underworld would be changed to the earth world. This was because Qin was no longer an independent world and had its own laws, so it had to be separated from the heaven-awakened world and no longer belong to the heaven-awakened world. This information would not be revealed to Qin's residents, and they would only be told that the name had been changed. If they were told, this information would definitely be leaked, and if other factions found out that Qin had become an independent world, they would be scared to death. The second thing to do was to develop the three worlds in the future. There were two main ways for a world to grow. The first was to absorb boundless void energy and create higher-level laws to expand the world. The second was to devour other worlds and fuse them with oneself. The first was called self-evolution, while the second was called devouring evolution. Both methods had their advantages and disadvantages. The advantage of self-evolution was that one's source energy was pure, and one's laws were of a higher level, allowing one to form a higher-level world. The disadvantage was that it was very slow. The advantage of devouring evolution was that it was incredibly fast, but the disadvantage was that its source energy was not pure, and its laws were of a lower level. Now, the heaven-awakened world focused on devouring, with self-evolution as a support. That was why there were so many races and worlds. The outer world and golden world focused on self-evolution, with devouring as a support. As such, their source energy was pure and their races were of a single type. Now, Zhao Fu decided to focus on devouring and use self-evolution as a support. Qin did not have the ability to devour worlds yet, but he could rely on another method to devour worlds. That method was to use the Sealing Heaven's Forbidden Region's magic formation to turn a region into his own land before having the Spirit Maiden devour it. That way, he would be able to devour worlds. The main reason for doing this was because now that Qin was connected to the heaven-awakened world, he could conquer worlds and devour worlds. This was a great advantage, as he could use the heaven-awakened world's power to continuously develop. If Qin left the heaven-awakened world, he would not be able to devour worlds and could only choose to use self-evolution. That way, his development would be incredibly slow, and it would take a long time for him to become stronger. As such, Zhao Fu could only choose to first devour and then self-evolve. After deciding on the direction of development, Qin's next step was to make preparations to conquer worlds and make the world stronger. Now, Zhao Fu was quite worried about the heaven-awakened world. If he discovered an existence like Qin, it was possible that he would destroy Qin. Facing such a powerful existence, Qin would not be able to resist at all. If he wanted to be safe, he would have to leave the heaven-awakened world. It could be said that Qin had to leave the heaven-awakened world, and everything he did was to prepare for that. Apart from this, there was another important thing, which was to collect as many things as he could to develop the three worlds. Before, Zhao Fu had said that the three world had just been formed and needed to go through a transformation in order to become truly powerful. This was the most important thing for Qin, and he had to collect them as soon as possible. If he left the heaven-awakened world, it would be too late, as he would not be able to obtain those materials. As for absorbing the energy from the celestial world above and the celestial world below, Zhao Fu would go to the Heaven Spirit Steel to take a look. There would most likely be things that Zhao Fu wanted there. Moreover, now that the three worlds had their own laws, They would not be affected by the heaven-awakened world's natural disasters, and there would not be any wind disasters, flood disasters, or lightning disasters. Great Qin could also continue to develop its farming industry and various other industries. Not only would he be able to grow crops, but he would also be able to grow spirit medicines. They would take much less time to grow, and their production would also increase. Everything would return to how it had been in the heaven-awakened world. This would be a big advantage for Qin, as the other places were all affected by the natural disasters. Chapter 23:15. Lord's army conquers the world. Announcement: please wait for a moment. After the content has been updated, please refresh the page to receive the latest update. Chapter 23:16. After Zhao Fu discussed with his ministers, they decided to change their original plan of peaceful development and adopt a strategy of attacking the outside world to develop Qin as quickly as possible. There were still a few months before Qin's Kingdom of Heaven's protection ended. Zhao Fu wanted to remove the Kingdom of Heaven's protection and attack the outside world. The Heaven Realm's Pantheon Palace continuously subdued godly spirits and became stronger. The Pantheon Palace was already the largest faction there, and no one was a match for it. Adding on the Pantheon Palace's Pantheon attribute, it attracted many godly spirits to join. The Yellow Springs Kingdom was also developing rapidly, continuously attacking other factions, and it was the most powerful faction in that region. The Alchemy World and the Outer World did not have any problems either. This was especially so for the arrogant and domineering Alchemy World. After being beaten up by Qin, they became very obedient. It was not that Qin was worried about them, but they were worried about Qin and were building all sorts of defensive structures. Right now, only the human world's matters had not come to an end. Qin had the greatest enmity with them. It could be said that they had hated each other for a long time. They had always wanted to destroy Qin, and Qin had always wanted to destroy them. Adding on the fact that Qin needed to develop quickly, Zhao Fu had decided to end the Kingdom of Heaven's protection early. It was a pity that the Kingdom of Heaven's protection still had a few months left. It was a barrier that could defend against countless armies, and it was something that Zhao Fu had obtained with great difficulty. After making this decision, Qin's army started to gather, and their aura was like a flood that could destroy everything. The Fire Country and Devil Horn Army, who had always wanted to attack Qin, had serious expressions on their faces. The terrifying ripples from the Three Realms formation caused countless people to fall into icy water. Their bodies violently trembled, and they felt extreme fear and despair. Qin had been hiding within the barrier for a long time and had not made any noise at all. However, he had suddenly given off such terrifying ripples. Just what had Qin been doing these past few days? Everyone had a feeling that it was definitely something terrifying. The Espers could sense how terrifying Qin was. The current Qin was completely different from the previous Qin. The original fate signs were like 9 ferocious and domineering black dragons bearing their fangs and claws, making people feel extremely terrified and not daring to get close. Now, Qin was like a giant ball. Although he was not as ferocious and terrible as before, he gave off an extremely terrifying sense of oppression. He was like a grain of sand in the vast ocean, powerless and suffocating. This power was several dozen times more powerful than the 9 black dragons, and it seemed to be nurturing some ultimate existence. Many people hurriedly persuaded the lords. My lord, Great Qin's fate sign is an extreme sign, and even though we don't know what's going on, we can be sure that Great Qin has gone through shocking changes. It's still not too late for us to leave now. If we're late, we'll all be wiped out. Right now, Qin Xiang is invincible. It's better to go back and wait for things to change. In order to attack Qin, the Devil Horn Empire and Fire Kingdom had roped in many feudal lords. All the lords knew how terrible Qin was, and they sensed that Qin was emitting such a terrible wave. Now they were also frightened by what the strange man said. I think it's best that we don't participate in this matter. Qin is not someone we can afford to offend. Let's go back and wait. Don't listen to the Devil Horn Empire and Fire Kingdom's lies and don't be tempted by them. Let them deal with their own matters. That's right. Let them attack each other and exhaust each other. Either way, I don't dare to stay here. Even if you don't leave, I'll leave. I'll also leave. Even if you stop me, I'll still leave. Just hearing about that ultimate fate sign is enough to scare people. You're dreaming. Do you think that if you run, Qin won't attack? Right now, it's not a matter of them exhausting each other, but whether or not the Devil Horn Empire can stop Qin. That's right. Everyone knows about Qin's wild ambitions. If they can't stop Qin, we'll be the ones to suffer. Then what should we do? If we don't leave, we'll die. If we leave, we'll die. It's so complicated. I think you're just scared. What's there to be scared of about Qin? If Qin is so terrifying, why is he being forced into hiding by the two factions? That's right. Now that Qin hasn't even appeared and you're scared, do you still have the guts? A bunch of cowards. What's there to be scared of? Even if I die, I'll die standing. I won't live kneeling. I don't care anymore. Whether you live or die has nothing to do with me. I choose to leave. No one could stop me. I'm also leaving. Even if Qin defeats the two factions, it will still take some time for him to attack us. So what if I'm scared of dying? Fudge. If you want to scram, then scram. Don't disturb our morale. Your elder wants to see just how terrifying Qin is. When the time comes, we'll divide up Qin. Don't come running over like dogs. The factions were now split into two factions. One chose to stay, and the other chose to leave. After hearing about this, Yao Ming and Li Baiqing's expressions became quite unsightly. In order to win over so many people, they had paid a great price. They had agreed to some requests, some had agreed to cede land, and some had given precious treasures after paying so much. They had come to see if they could break the ward and kill Qin. Now, their lifelong pursuit was to kill Qin, and all their goals were to kill Qin. However, now that Qin had burst out such a terrifying wave, they had lost their confidence. In addition, with so many people leaving, they were even less confident. What should they do next? They were all hesitant. At this time, a skinny old man with a magic staff in his hand said seriously, "Now, Qin's fate pattern is indeed the ultimate one. It's the first time I've seen such a terrifying fate pattern. However, everything is not clear now, so it's better not to make a decision. Moreover, the ward is very powerful and can last for a few more months. Qin won't come out so soon. During this period, the two lords should figure out how to deal with Qin and find out what happened to Qin." Hearing this, Yao Ming and Li Baiqing nodded. Qin hadn't come out yet, so there was still some time. There was no need for them to panic. More importantly, it was just the terrifying fate pattern. It didn't mean that Qin's strength had increased by much. They might still have a great advantage. If they could kill Qin and absorb this ultimate fate pattern, they would also have this fate pattern. Now, they had another reason to kill Qin. They didn't know what was going on with Qin. He could always cause changes in heaven and earth, and every time, it was different. He had many opportunities. Although they didn't want to admit it, they really admired Zhao Fu. He was their greatest enemy. Then, they decided not to retreat or attack. They would build a defensive wall around Qin and see what happened first. Chapter 23:17. At the same time, they continued to search for a way to break the barrier. This barrier was too disgusting, and no matter what they tried, they could not break it. Qin was right in front of them, but they could not do anything to Qin. This was quite infuriating. Only by breaking the barrier would they be able to regain the initiative. When the leaders of the remaining factions heard this, they nodded in agreement. This is the best method. We don't fear Qin too much or look down on Qin. This way, even if Qin becomes very terrifying, we will at least be able to retaliate. We won't be completely defenseless. Right now, I just want to break the barrier and see how strong Qin is. I want to see how those cowards who ran away will perform in the future. Don't be too arrogant, but I like it. If Qin cancels the barrier, do you have the guts to charge at the front? Why wouldn't I dare? However, my faction is not as strong as the Devil Horn Kingdom or the Fire Kingdom, so I won't charge in front of them. However, it won't be a problem for me to charge in front of you. You said that. Don't wait for Qin to come out. Otherwise, your faction will be the first to run. Ha ha. Do you think I'm that kind of person? Also, there's still a few months before the barrier disappears. Qin will definitely hide inside and develop. You're quite smart. You know that Qin won't come out, so you're putting on an act here. Ha ha. I'm not really putting on an act. When Qin comes out, I guarantee that I'll be at the front and be even faster than the two Devil Horn factions. I say, you're becoming more and more pretentious. Just now, you said that you were behind the two factions, and now you dare to say that you're in front of them? That's right. Don't be too pretentious, or else it'll be even more embarrassing. I already said that I'm not putting on an act. If Qin comes out, just wait and see. I'll definitely be the first to charge. Of course, that's only if. If he doesn't appear, then there's nothing I can do. Boom! A massive explosion sounded out as a massive aura exploded out, causing everyone to feel shocked. The barrier in front of them was undergoing a shocking change. The Kingdom of Heaven image was disappearing, and the buildings and soldiers all disappeared. The power of Kingdom of Heaven's protection was weakening. Everyone widened their eyes, finding this a bit hard to believe. Heavenly Country's barrier was disappearing. The power of Kingdom of Heaven's protection continued to weaken, and the enchantment was disappearing. Everyone was finally sure that Kingdom of Heaven's protection enchantment was disappearing. But how could the Kingdom of Heaven's protective enchantment disappear? Wasn't it going to take a few months? How could he be so fast? Everyone suddenly had a bad feeling that Qin was about to come out. Thinking of this, everyone felt nervous, afraid, and a hint of anticipation. After such a long time, what did Qin look like now? And what was the reason for Qin's fluctuation just now? Everything would be revealed soon. The barrier completely disappeared, and groups of Qin soldiers wearing black armor and holding all sorts of weapons appeared on the ground. They had cold expressions and gave off powerful auras. It was like a black ocean that could destroy everything. No one could resist it. Behind them, there were also huge metal creatures that were thousands of meters tall. There were all kinds of them, including turtles, lions, tigers, crocodiles. Their bodies were all made of metal, and even though they looked different, there were cannons on their bodies that gave off cold light and destructive auras. There were also mechanical wyverns and some mechanical birds flying in the sky. Their massive bodies covered the sky, and they gave off a massive might that covered the sky. Seeing this scene, everyone's eyes widened. Sensing this massive power, they felt as if they had fallen into icy water, and a wave of terror flowed out of their hearts. Was this Qin's current strength? The Qin soldiers gave off auras that rivaled Stage 2 soldiers, and they gave off a metallic sharpness that could cause people's hairs to stand on end. Were these still the Qin soldiers from before? Before, Qin soldiers were incredibly cruel and cold-blooded, and they were like killing machines. Now, they were like icy machines. The key thing was not just a single soldier, but an ocean of soldiers. This was not the most terrifying thing. The most terrifying thing was the war god beasts. How could Qin have gold refinement god beasts? Moreover, there were so many of them. This was almost impossible. First of all, the Heaven Awakened World's factions were being suppressed by the Gold Refinement World and were in a relatively weak position, making it impossible for them to defeat the Gold Refinement God families. If one wanted to obtain Gold Refinement God beasts, they first had to destroy the Gold Refinement God families. If they could not even destroy the Gold Refinement God families, how could they obtain Gold Refinement God beasts? Moreover, the Gold Refinement God beasts could only be controlled by people from the Gold Refinement God families. Because they belonged to different worlds, the Heaven Awakened World's people could only destroy the Gold Refinement God family's legacies and could not occupy them. This made it so that the Heaven Awakened World could not control the Gold Refinement God families. Of course, there was another method, which was to make the families submit without occupying the legacies. However, that would be incredibly dangerous. It was evident that Qin had chosen the second method. Now that there were so many Gold Refinement God families, how many families would he subdue? Was Qin not afraid of death? Or was the despicable Qin working together with the Gold Refinement God families to harm them? However, this was not too likely. The Heaven Awakened World's consciousness had clearly stated that anyone who worked with the Gold Refinement World would be killed. If Qin dared to openly work with the gold refinement world, wasn't that just seeking death? However, no one could understand why Qin had so many gold refinement god beasts. However, they had fought with the gold refinement world before and knew how terrifying these gold refinement god beasts were. Facing such terrifying gold refinement god beasts and countless Qin soldiers, countless people felt despair. Yao Ming and Li Baiqing's expressions were quite unsightly. Damn it, everyone retreat. The person at the front immediately gave the order to retreat. This was evidently a battle that they would definitely lose, and anyone who stayed behind would be idiots. Everyone else's expressions were quite unsightly, and they also gave the order to retreat. They understood the current situation. When the retreating army saw the soldiers running away like mad dogs, their expressions became blank, not knowing what was going on. What's wrong? Weren't you supposed to defend against Qin? Why are you running away in fear? Qin released the barrier and charged out. It's too terrifying. I've never seen such a terrifying army before. Also, Qin has gold refinement god beasts. Anyone who stays there will definitely die. Fudge, why didn't you say so earlier? Your elder knew that Qin was terrifying. I told you to run from the start, but you were still acting cool. Now, do you know how to be afraid? Don't waste words. Hurry up and run. Otherwise, you won't be able to escape even if you want to. Chapter 23:18. All right. We'll leave immediately. That's right. Where's the most pretentious person? Did he rush up first? What happened to him? Don't even mention it. He ran faster than a rabbit and is already in front of us. He acted so pretentiously just then, and now he's been slapped in the face. Fudge, he's already in front of us. Let's hurry and run. The various armies hurriedly ran, leaving behind the Devil Horn Empires and Fire Kingdom's armies. It was not that they did not want to retreat, but that Qin's gaze had been on them from the very beginning. Once they chose to retreat, Qin would immediately chase after them. When that time came, they would be at a great disadvantage. Without a formation, they would not be able to defend or attack, and it would be a massacre. Now that the Devil Horn Empires and Fire Kingdom's armies had formed a defensive formation, they could only try to see if they could defend. Zhao Fu stood at the front of Qin's army and looked at Yao Ming and Li Baiqing as he smiled and said, "Long time no see. You're still so weak." Yao Ming and Li Baiqing's faces became even more terrifyingly pale. Right now, Zhao Fu felt incredibly different from the Zhao Fu from before, as if he was a completely different person. This was especially so because they could sense an aura of the source of all things from Zhao Fu's body. Under this kind of aura, they all felt a sense of inferiority and insignificance. What was going on? How had Zhao Fu become so terrifying? Right now, the two of them were quite afraid of Zhao Fu and understood that they were not a match for Zhao Fu. The difference between them and Zhao Fu was like the difference between the heavens and the earth. However, even so, they would not admit defeat. Yao Ming said coldly, "Boy, don't be too arrogant." Back then, he was forced to hide in a barrier. If it wasn't for that barrier, we would have long since destroyed you. Zhao Fu lightly laughed. "You're underestimating Qin and me too much. Do you think you could destroy Qin like that? Keep dreaming." Li Baiqing looked at Zhao Fu without saying anything. Zhao Fu smiled and said, "It's a pity that the Fiery Kingdom has a scourge like you. Since you've become Qin's enemy, I'll destroy the Fiery Kingdom. I'm looking forward to the taste of your mother-in-law and wife. You deserve to die. How dare you insult the princess and empress?" A muscular flame general angrily shouted, looking like he wanted to kill Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu said with a light smile, "I'm not insulting you. I'll really do it. You can go back and tell them that all of your concubines in the palace can be washed clean for me to enjoy." The flame general was so angry that his face became red. Just as he was about to say something, Li Baiqing spoke first. "You're an animal. My mother is your stepmother, and my wife is your sister-in-law. Not only did you violate them, but you also want to insult my wife and mother-in-law." Fiery Kingdom soldiers were Stage 2 soldiers, and they were very useful against Stage 1 soldiers. Even though Great Qin's soldiers looked quite terrifying and could rival Stage 2 soldiers, they had the advantage in numbers and were not at a complete disadvantage. The two sides quickly obeyed their orders, and the Devil Horn army blocked Qin's army from the front while the Fiery Kingdom's soldiers attacked from the sides. Boom! 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 At that moment, the Qin soldiers gave off waves of green aura flames, giving off a metallic aura, and their skin seemed to become metallic. Li Baiqing and the Devil Horn army felt quite startled. Sensing this aura, they could not believe it. Arg! Pained cries continuously sounded out as blood flew everywhere. People fell, and a dense stench of blood spread out. The scene was incredibly chaotic, and both sides started to fight intensely. Qin soldiers had a great advantage in this battle. A Qin soldier holding a saber sent alchemy power into his saber, causing it to give off a sharp saber chi. He vigorously slashed out, and an extremely sharp saber light split a Fiery Kingdom soldier in half. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.